Eastern Gangas of Odisha. So Eastern Gangas of Odisha is another dynasty. Dravida architectural style, it was perfected by the Pandyas. So Dvikuta, Trikuta, Dravida, Nagara. In this time period, Muhammad Ghazni, he could invade India 17 times and he could loot India. The most famous invasion happened in 1024, the famous Somnath attack. So receiving that invitation, Babur, he has entered into India, defeated Lodi in the battle of Panipat, first battle of Panipat, 1526. Sher Shah, he is known for certain things, especially he is known for reintroduction of the Dag and Chehra systems. Next, he was known for his revenue system, revenue reforms. So during the times of Mughals, these factories, they were actually working, they were producing weapons and all such things. Right, even Akbar used to work in these karkhanas. So they were very important. So our next topic of discussion in continuation would be medieval India, medieval Indian history. So after the Harsha, Chalukya, Pallava, this existence of them, so the other next three dynasties which we see is Rashtrakuta, right. So in Deccan it is Rashtrakutas, in Karnataka, Maharashtra region, and then Palas in the eastern Indian region, and then Pratiharas in North India, Rajasthan, Gujarat, UP, that area it was ruled by Pratiharas. So the existence of these three and the conflicts among these three groups, we call it as tripartite struggle. Especially this tripartite struggle, it was for the city of Kannauj, because Kannauj as the city, it did gain prominence during the times of Harshavardhana. So it was regarded as the headquarters of entire India. Right. So Kannauj, it had the prestige value, it had the strategic value, right, because it was located in the Ganga Yamuna Doab region. Because of that, so it was of strategic value, and then it was of trade and commerce value. So for all these three reasons, Kannauj was very much sought after among these three. So among the three, if you look one by one, Rashtrakutas. Rashtrakutas, founder Dantidurga, right. So the other important ones are Krishna, Govinda, Amogavarsha. So we have some prominent ones like Krishna, Govinda and Amogavarsha. So especially Govinda 3. So Govinda 3, Krishna 1, all these people. So they were the most prominent. So Rashtrakutas, they had conflicts with Palas, especially with Pratiharas, Palas, and then on a later date they even had conflicts with Cholas. So Cholas, who were ruling the deep south of India, so they had conflicts with them. So with all these entities, Rashtrakutas, they had conflicts. Their capital was Manyakheta. Malkhed or Manyakheta, it was the capital of Rashtrakutas. Right? So this is the case. So politically, so they were the most powerful because of their strength through forts. Forts was the main area of strength to Rashtrakutas. So coming to the Rashtrakuta administration, Rashtrakutas, they have divided their entire empire into something called Rashtras or Vishayas. So they were led by Rashtrapati or Vishayapati. Then after that it was Bhukti. Next it was villages. So Bhuktis, they were divided into several number of villages. This was the basic administration. At the central level in medieval times and ancient times, things won't change. The same emperor, with all powerful emperor, with a council of ministers, Purohita, Senane and others, they are all usual. But this structure you need to have that clarity, right? So Rashtras, Bhuktis and then villages. This was how the administration was organized during the Rashtrakuta times. So the currency during the Rashtrakuta times, Dramma was the term used for currency. So even in Palas and Pratiharas also you will see the same term, Dramma. So golden Drammas, they are very rare, right? So but Rashtrakutas, they have issued gold coins. Golden Drammas were issued by Rashtrakutas, right? So this is the thing. Usual land revenue system, 1/6 of the tax was collected, so that was all normal. So like any other medieval Hindu kingdom. Next, coming to Palas. See, Palas, the interesting thing is the only dynasty to come to power through election, or you can say through consensus among people, were Palas. They didn't revolt against someone, they were not a dynasty, they were not feudatories, nothing. So they were selected by the locals so that they would create some kind of stability in eastern India. Because eastern India, after Gauda Shashanka, it had no proper rule and it was attacked by several of these entities, like from China, from Kashmir and all these places, there were invasions on Bengal. So Pala dynasty, Gopala, was selected by the locals to be the rulers. You can say that it was a kind of social contract that led to the creation of Pala dynasty. Right. So Palas, the important one is Dharmapala. The important one is Dharmapala. So there are others like Devapala, Rampala, all these people, they are there. But Palas, they were essentially Buddhists. So among the three, Palas, they were Buddhist. So they were the reason for the growth of Vikramashila, Uddantapuri. These two centers of learning, so they are developed by the Pala dynasty, they are Buddhist centers of learning. Right. So this is the case. So Pala dynasty, the main strength with them was regarding elephantry. Because of presence of so many forests in eastern India and all that, elephantry was their main strength for Palas. So empire, it was divided into several bhuktis under Palas, next into Vishayas, next into Mandalas. If you observe, Palas, they were following exactly the system that was in prevalence during the Guptas. Right. So Bhukti, Uparika, Vishaya, Vishayapati, Mandala by Mandaleshwara or Mahamandaleshwara. So you can call it anything. There are certain terms that were used in the Pala administration for group of villages. Right. So Khandala, Bhaga, Avritti, Chaturaka, Avritti, Khandala, Bhaga, Chaturaka, Pattaka, P-A-T-T-A-K. So these are all terms used for groups of villages under Pala administration. Try to be familiar with as many terms as possible of medieval India or ancient India, because it is all about terms in prelims. So terminology, right? So this is the case with the Pala administration. They were Buddhist, so this was their structure of administration, right? So this is the thing. Next, Pratiharas. So Pratiharas, So Nagabhatta was the founder. Nagabhatta, he was the founder, and the greatest ruler was Mihira Bhoja. Mihira Bhoja, he was the greatest ruler. They are also referred to as Gurjar Pratiharas. So Mihira Bhoja, Nagabhatta was the one. See, Nagabhatta, he came into prominence, the founder came into prominence by defeating Hunas. Nagabhatta and then the Gupta ruler Narsimha Baladitya, they both had an alliance to defeat Huna rulers, right? So Huns, they were defeated, they were subjugated. That's how Pratiharas could come to power in North India. So alliance between Narsimha Baladitya and this Nagabhatta, the founder. Right. So Mihira Bhoja was the greatest. So coming to the Pratiharas, their strength was cavalry. So it was the only dynasty that did not issue gold coins among the three, or if you even include Cholas into that. So among the four, they were the ones who did not issue any gold coins because there was some kind of backward economy was prevailing in Pratihara times. Right. So the famous Arab traveler who visited them was Suleiman. So Suleiman was the Arab traveler who visited the Pratihara territories. So he recorded about the conditions of Pratiharas and even to some extent about Palas. And even Rashtrakutas he has written, but mainly his writings were regarding Pratihara dynasty. So cavalry was their mainstay. So their ruling, Pratihara ruling, it was completely a feudal model of administration. So they followed the Guptan form of administration, and extreme feudal autonomy was allowed in Pratihara kingdom. Extreme feudal autonomy. So that was the reason why we see rise of various Rajput clans. After this, after the Pratiharas, it is the division of entire North India and under several of these Rajput clans. Right. So Rashtrakuta, Pratihara, Palas. Among these three things, so the one common feature was feudalism. So rise of feudalism is one important phenomena that defines medieval times in India. Not just in India, across the world. When we use the term medieval, it is very much related to the phenomena of rise in feudalism. So feudalism, the root cause is land grants. Next, the reason was decline in trade and commerce. So due to the decline in trade and commerce, the kings, they had less access to money. They had very less access to money, so they were not able to pay up their armies in cash. They were not able to maintain standing armies on their own because of limited resources. So that forced them to go for land grants, or you can say feudal grants given to military chiefs, so that those military chiefs, they would collect the revenue from those areas and maintain armed forces, right? And they would support the king in times of necessity. So this model, it came into picture essentially in the Pratihara kingdom. It was followed by all Palas and Rashtrakutas also, but strongly it is found in Pratihara kingdom, right? So land grants to Brahmins is one thing, and then due to decline in trade and commerce, land assignments to military chiefs. To military chiefs and locally powerful groups. So these two have led to feudalism. So feudalism, the problem with feudalism is that it increases landed intermediaries, who have little stakes in improvement in agriculture. So they take no interest in improvement of agriculture. First thing, the burden on the farmer, it increases because the farmer has to take care of multiple layers between him and the government. So multiple layers of these people, they would come up, intermediaries would come up. So this is the thing. So increased pressure on the farmer, and then third thing is some kind of loss of autonomy to villages. So villages, they were having some kind of autonomy that was lost because of the excessive pressure from the feudal lords. So all these are the effects of feudalism. This is about these things. So early medieval India, the changes that happened in this time. Next. Cholas. Coming to Cholas, Vijayalaya, he is the founder. So Vijayalaya is the founder. After him we have people like Aditya 1, Parantaka 1, Parantaka 2, that is Sundara Chola, so Prakash Raj, right? Next we have this Madhurantaka Chola, and then Rajaraja Chola, right? Rajendra Chola, all these people. So these things, so that's how the succession of Cholas did happen. Cholas, in this time period, they had conflicts essentially with Pallavas and then Pandyas. So Pandyas, they were defeated by Parantaka 1. So during the times of Parantaka 1 and even during the times of Parantaka 2, Pandyas, they were totally subjugated. Right. So Pallavas, they had some existence in North Tamil Nadu, but they were also completely removed from the position of power by Cholas. This is the thing. And from the time of Sundara Chola and then from the times of Rajaraja Chola, we see repeated incursions into Sri Lanka. Repeated incursions into Sri Lanka can be seen. The capital of Sri Lanka was also changed, right? So from Anuradhapura in southern Sri Lanka, the capital got shifted to northern Sri Lanka. So this change, it did happen. A Shiva temple was constructed. All these things, they did happen. So during the times of Rajaraja and then Rajendra Chola, during their time period, we see the naval power of Cholas, it reaching out even to Southeast Asia, right? So entire Southeast Asia, it is said that they used to pay tributes, they used to accept the supremacy of Cholas. So all these things, Cholas, that is why we call them as the imperial Cholas. The first Cholas during the times of Sangama, right, imperial Cholas in medieval times, 9th, 10th and 11th centuries. So Sri Vijaya, Kamboja, Shailendra, these three were the entities, or you can say kingdoms present in Southeast Asia. Shailendra, Kamboja, Sri Vijaya. So they were all subjugated by the Cholas. And Bay of Bengal, it was referred to as the Chola Lake because of the extreme maritime activity carried on by Cholas. This is one thing. And Rajendra Chola, he could go up to Bengal. So both through land as well as through seas. So that is how he got the title Gangaikonda. So he has built the city Gangaikonda Cholapuram. Konda, this term, it is a Tamil term used for the victorious one over the city. So we have terms like Vatapikonda. Vatapikonda was used for Narasimhavarma, the Pallava king. Gangaikonda, and then Parantaka one got the title Madurai Konda, because he defeated the Pandyas. So Konda, this term, it means victorious one. So who has won over that region, right? So this is Cholas. So we have later Cholas, Kulottunga and others, and finally by 13th century, by mid 13th century, Pandyas, they could make a comeback, and Pandyas, they could defeat the Cholas. The presence of Cholas, it did end by mid, or you can say early 12th century, early 13th century, right? Early 12th century itself, mid 12th century. So this did happen. So coming to Chola administration. Chola administration, So entire kingdom into mandalas, mandalas into Valanadu, Valanadu into Nadu, Nadus into villages. Villages same like the Pallava times, they were governed by Ur, the normal agrarian villages, Sabha, the Brahmanical villages, and then Nagaratar for the city. So this was the model of administration followed by the Cholas, somewhat similar to Pallavas we can say, right. So mandalams, they were directly ruled by the princes. So the royal blood people, princes and kings relatives, they used to rule mandalams. So Valanadus, they were governed by Periyanattar. Periyanattar. So Nadu by Nattar. Right. So villages under these sabhas. Right. So the entire concept of village autonomy, it was explained clearly in the Uttara Merur inscription of Parantaka 1 times. It belonged to the mid 10th century, somewhere around 950, 960. So it was issued Uttara Merur inscription. So Uttara Merur inscription, it had this thing. So the committee members under this village administration, they were called as Variya Perumakkal was the term used for the village council. So each village, it was divided into certain number of wards based on the size of that particular village. So after dividing that into village wards, so each ward used to have one representative. So they used to sit together and they used to take the decisions in this Variya Perumakkalam. So the conditions were related to no repeated terms to the single person, he should not be indicted, he should not be indicted in some other form of crime and all these things. So qualifications, so limit on the number of terms, so what are the functions of the village autonomous council, all these things they are mentioned in Uttara Merur inscription. So the king had no other duty except to collect the tax. So except for the tax collection, king should not interfere in the affairs of the village. All the other things to be decided by this Variya Perumakkala, right. So this was the best case scenario of village self-autonomy in South India, right. This is the thing. See, remember one thing, Ganarajyas, the functioning of the Vedic Ganarajyas, Valla, Vajji, all these things, and then the Sanghas, Buddhist Sangha, functioning of the Buddhist Sangha, Uttara Merur inscription, all such instances, they are important because they prove that India had a strong tradition of democracy in ancient and medieval times. So keep a note of them, they are very much helpful for you in writing mains answer, even in prelims also they are helpful. So keep a note of such democratic practices that were present in ancient and medieval times, okay, right. So this is about Cholas, and then coming to other aspects, Cholas, they had military cantonments called Kadagams. Kadagams, they were the military cantonments. So all the other divisions, infantry, cavalry, so navy was an important instrument in the Chola administration, or you can say military thing. So they were all present, and so they were Valailekkar, so it was a term used for the bodyguards of the king. So Valailekkar, bodyguards of the king. So they had a tradition. So all the Tamil dynasties, Pandyas, to some extent even Pallavas and Cholas. So whenever king dies in battle, so because these Valailekkars, they have failed in protecting the king, they would die along with the king in the funeral pyre. So such was the extreme, this thing followed by these people. So in medieval dynasties, you will find this institution of king's bodyguard to be one of the most important institutions in the kingdoms. So you have a similar thing in Kakatiyas called Lenkas. You will find the same thing in Bahmanis called Khase Khel. You will find the same thing in Mughals called Ahadis. So keep a note of these bodyguards. So king's royal bodyguards. So they were an important institution in the functioning of the medieval dynasties. Right? So this is one thing, one institution to be noted of. So Valayalekka. Next, coming to the land grant system of Cholas. Three types of land grants: Brahmadeya, Devadana, and then Agrahara. So Agraharas, they were residential lands given to, residential and even agrarian lands given to Brahmins for their own use, or you can say for their residence purpose. Agraharas. Devadanas, they are lands given only for the purpose of temple maintenance. Temple maintenance, it is the Devadana lands. Next, Brahmadeya lands, they are given for the Brahmins for their personal use. So residential lands, personal use lands, and then lands for the purpose of temple use. Right? So these were the three kinds of Brahmanical land grants. So the institution of Ghatikas that were present from the times of Pallavas, they continued during Chola times. Ghatikas, they are learning institutions. They are existing from Pallava times. See, the Ur, Sabha, all these things, the Mandala system, these Ghatikas, they were all having Pallava legacy. Strong Pallava legacy, you can find it in Chola administration. Learning centers, especially Vedic learning centers, this thing. Right? Next, coming to the Chola society. Coming to the Chola society. So Chola society, it was divided into two things. So two groups of caste groups, Idangai groups and Valangai groups, or Vadangai, Valangai. So you will find different spellings because you can't find exact pronunciation terms for Tamil language things in English. So the spellings would differ. Right. So Idangai, Valangai. So these are left hand caste groups, right hand caste groups. So left hand caste groups are associated with crafts. They are vocational craft groups. Weavers, potters, blacksmiths, goldsmiths, right? All such craft groups, they are part of carpenters, they are all part of left hand caste groups. Right hand caste groups, they are associated with agriculture, right? So in Karnataka elections, you might be seeing this term, scheduled caste right and scheduled caste left. Have you followed the articles? No, okay. So right, whenever you see this term right hand or right, this thing, it is associated with land related activity, agrarian activity in context of South India. Right, so right hand caste into agriculture, and the prominent agriculture caste was this thing. So Vellalas. So Chola society, it was with full of conflicts. So there was Brahmin versus Arasar conflict. Arasars, they are royal family members. So royal family members, the relatives of the king or the extended family of the king, we call it as Arasar. So they had competition among themselves for higher positions in administration. And we will see Brahmin versus Vellalar. So Vellalar versus Arasar. Next, Idangai versus Valangai caste groups. This conflict was very much there. And then so Saliyar versus Kaikolar, these two were two weaving groups in weaving castes within the Chola society, and they were competing among themselves for recognition that they were the true weaving caste. because weaving was a very much remunerative profession in the Chola times. So they had huge export market. So these two caste groups, they were competing with each other in the royal court for recognition as the only weaver caste. So to have monopoly over the entire profession of weaving. So that conflict was eternal. The kings could not solve this conflict between the Kaikolar group and the Saliyar group, right? So next, Shaiva versus Vaishnava conflict, it was severe in Chola times, especially by the time of later Cholas, Kulotunga Chola and all that. This conflict, it has become more serious. So Ramanujacharya, he was asked to move away from the Chola territories. So Ramanujacharya, he had to leave Perumbudur, Srirangam, Perumbudur, and he had to move to Karnataka, Melkote, because of this pressure from the Chola ruler Kulotunga Chola, right? So Shaiva versus Vaishnava conflict was also serious. So if we observe the Chola society, it was with so much of competition and conflict among several groups, right hand, left hand, all these differences, they were very much strongly present, right? So Chola society, it had something called, we can say, sati system was in prevalence among the royal caste, royal members. So only few. It was not a general practice across the groups. So sati, it was a voluntary thing for few women. So untouchability was there, child marriages were there, and another important thing is Devadasi system, it got started. So the profession of, or I can say the practice of dedicating women to temples, it got very much strongly established during the Chola times. Devadasi system, right? Because Cholas, they were famous for temple construction activity. So thousands of women, they were dedicated as dancers and Devadasis in this time. So society of Cholas, it was of this kind, right? So coming to the economy of Cholas. So Cholas, they were known for what you can say, foreign trade and all these things. So especially ports. So ports, they were in more prominence in East Coast. So they had control over West Coast also, parts of West Coast. Kaveri Pattanam, Nagapattanam, so all these are important ports. So they issued gold coins. So they have constructed highways called Periyavazi. Periyavazi means highways, Chola highways. Chola highways. So regular land revenue system, all these things, they were as usual, 1/6 of the tax was collected, and other tolls and all these things, they were collected by the rulers. Right. Fine. This is about the Cholas. Next. So we need to have a look at several of these smaller dynasties, and this is the most confusing part because we have multiplicity of kingdoms during this time period. Right, in north we see Rajput principalities. So all the Rajputs who were the feudatories of Pratiharas, so they did claim independence in this time period from 10th century onwards till 13th century. You will find, or you can say 11th to 13th, at least like 200 to 50 years, you see a multiplicity of these kingdoms. But you need to have a note of these things. So Chahmanas are Chauhans. So they were from Ajmer. So the most prominent ruler, Prithviraj Chauhan. Gahadwalas, Kanauj. So they are another Rajput. These are all Rajput clans. Tomars, Delhi. So Tomars are the ones who have constructed the existing city of Delhi, which was by name Dillika. So Dillika city, it was founded by a Tomar ruler, Anangapala. Next, Sisodias, Mewar or Udaipur. So the Ranas, the famous Rana family, the Maharana Pratap, these people, they belong to the Sisodia clan. Next, Chandelas, Bundelkhand. So the famous Khajuraho temples, they are developed by the Chandelas. Khajuraho temple complex, it is their contribution. Chandelas. Next, Kalachuris of Tripuri. Kalachuris of Tripuri. And then we have Paramaras of Malwa region. Paramaras of Malwa. Next. Solankis of Gujarat. So Solanki Rajputs, they are also called as the Chalukyas, Gujarat Chalukyas. They are also referred to as Solankis of Gujarat. Right. This is one thing. And we can note down Bhatis of Jaisalmer is one dynasty. Bhatis of Jaisalmer is one group. Paramaras, right. So Chandelas, Kalachuris, Chahamanas, Gahadwalas, Tomars, Sisodias. Right. So these were the Rajput clans that were present in the north. Okay. Next. So in the same time period, in south, we see rise of certain things like Kakatiyas. So Kakatiyas of Warangal. So Kakatiyas, they were initially feudatories of Rashtrakutas. Right, from Rashtrakutas, after the decline of Rashtrakutas, they did gain independence from the times of Rudravan. Next, Kalyani Chalukyas. So Kalyani Chalukyas also got independence from Rashtrakutas. So Kalyani Chalukyas of Kalyani region of Karnataka. So Tailappa was their founder. Next, Yadavas of Devagiri. Devagiri, it is a place in Maharashtra, Daulatabad. So Yadavas, Billama was the founder of this dynasty and Singhana was the most popular in Yadavas. So Kakatiyas, it is Rudramadevi, the most popular. Hoysalas of Halebid Belur. Halebid Belur, Hoysalas. Vishnuvardhana Raya is the most important ruler of Hoysala times. Next, after them we find Eastern Gangas of Odisha. So Eastern Gangas of Odisha is another dynasty. Next, you can find Pandyas of Madurai is another one. Right. So all these are the southern dynasties that were present during this time period of 10th, 11th, 12th and even to the extent of 13th century. We find all these dynasties and most of them, so they were defeated by the Muslim invaders in the 13th century. Right. This is the thing. So coming to, so broadly, if we look at the contribution of all these regional kingdoms, it can be in the north, it can be in the south. If we look at their contribution, the first and foremost contribution is temple construction activity. They have developed certain styles of regional temple construction activity. For example, the Chandelas of Bundelkhand region, so they are known for the Nagara architecture in the Khajuraho, right. So firstly, temples, the contribution, temples. Next, Kakatiyas, they have developed the famous Trikuta style. Hoysalas, Dvikuta style. So Pandyas, they have perfected the Dravida style. Dravida architectural style, it was perfected by the Pandyas. So Dvikuta, Trikuta, Dravida, Nagara, all these styles they were developed by these regional dynasties. Architecture. Next, the second one, all these dynasties, even Eastern Chalukyas, I forgot to mention, Eastern Chalukyas of Andhra region, all these dynasties, they have contributed to language development. Regional languages, they got impetus during the times of these regional kingdoms. Eastern Chalukyas, Telugu, Eastern Gangas, Odia, right? So Pandyas to Tamil, so Hoysalas to Kannada. In this way, all these regional kingdoms, they contributed to the present existing languages. Kakatiyas to Telugu, right? So all these dynasties. With regarding Eastern Gangas, I forgot to mention, they are the ones who have constructed all the famous temples of Orissa. So the famous Lingaraja temple, Konark temple, Jagannath temple, even Simhachalam temple, Srimukalingam temple of Srikakulam, all these temples, they are developed by the Eastern Gangas. So temples, languages, and third important contribution of them is, so they have promoted Bhakti movement, Bhakti tradition in a rather stronger fashion. So Bhakti tradition, it got support from these dynasties, right? So the tradition of Bhakti. So for these three things, they are important, right? So this is about the smaller regional kingdoms that were in existence in the medieval times. Now, Islamic invasions into India. Coming to Islamic invasions into India, the first successful invasion into India, it was in 712 BC on Sindh by Muhammad bin Qasim. It was on Sindh, ruler Tahir. But after that, there is a huge gap, right? But this is the Arab conquest. So Arab conquest onto Sindh because of a dispute that arose because of the piracy that happened on the sea near Dwaraka regarding the goods that were taken for Caliph. So there was this thing. Oh, sorry, AD. Right. So this thing, the dispute has arose, and that led to this Muhammad bin Qasim coming. So coming to the impact of Arab conquest on India, if we look at it, first thing is knowledge exchange. Second thing, political Islam. First time, political Islam. India had the experience of political Islam. This thing did happen. So there were a lot of conversions, forced conversions and all these things that happened. So Sindh, Multan, these areas, they started to have continuous presence of Arabs. So Arab settlements, they did form in the present day Sindh and Multan areas, presently located in Pakistan. So this is the thing about Dahir's conquest, or you can say, so the defeat of Dahir in the hands of Muhammad bin Qasim. So this is the thing. So later on certain attempts were made, but Arabs, they were defeated by Nagabhatta, all these people, the Pratihara rulers who were present in 8th century and all that, they could prevent the onslaught of Arabs. They could defeat the Arabs for a very long time. So Arabs, they couldn't penetrate much into India. But the change, it started to happen from 1000 onwards with the entry of Ghazni Muhammad. Ghazni, or you can say Ghaznavid. Ghazni or Ghaznavid, it is a term associated with Islamic warriors, the Turkish Islamic warriors who have newly adopted to Islam. Earlier Turks, they were not with Islam, so they were with Buddhism, pagan religion and all such things. So later on they got converted into Islam. After getting converted, this tradition of Ghaznavid got started. So one family that was with him was this Muhammad's family, right? So from the time of father of Ghazni was Sabaktajin. Sabaktajin, he was the father of Ghazni. So Sabaktajin, and then these people, Sabaktajin, Muhammad Ghazni, they had conflicts with Hindu Shahi rulers who were ruling the areas of Kashmir, Afghanistan, so northern Afghanistan, Kashmir, northern Afghanistan and northern Pakistan. So these areas, they were ruled by Hindu Shahis. So Anandapala, Jaipala, so don't confuse with the Anangapala of Delhi, he is different. So Anandapala, Jaipala, they were there. So they had to face these conflicts, right? So finally, so from 1000 onwards till 1027, in this time period, Muhammad Ghazni, he could invade India 17 times and he could loot India. The most famous invasion happened in 1024, the famous Somnath attack, the destruction of the Somnath Mandir by Muhammad Ghazni. So all these 17 times he could penetrate till Madhya Pradesh. So he had conflicts with the Paramaras, all these entities. So Chandelas, Paramaras. So he had some defeats, but most of the times he was successful. But Muhammad Ghazni, he was of no intention to start any kind of empire in India. He saw India just as a source of income whenever he wanted money, right? So these things, they did happen, and that's how Islam, it has become a reality in India through these repeated invasions. So the only area where Islam was not through invasions was in Kerala. So in Kerala we find so many of these Arab settlements that happened because of trade and commerce. But in other areas it was through invasions, right? This is the thing. So next we find is Ghori, Muhammad Ghori. So from 1178 onwards, we see the activity of Ghori in India, because Muhammad Ghori, so he wanted to expand his kingdom, but there was no possibility on the west side, because on his west, to the west of Afghanistan, there was this famous Khwarizmi Empire. So Khwarizmi Empire of Persia was there. So he couldn't extend into the West Asia. He has to move into eastern parts, that is towards India. So he attacked Gujarat, he attacked Rajasthan, and then he finally came to Punjab. When he was in Punjab, he came into conflict with Prithviraj Chauhan for an area called Bhatinda. So Bhatinda, it is located in Punjab of India. So earlier called as Tabar Hind. So for this area, both Chauhan and Prithviraj, they had a dispute, and that led to the famous battles of Tarain. Two battles of Tarain, 1191 and 92, or 92 and 93, right? So 91 and 92, right? So battles of Tarain. The first battle in which Chauhan was successful, but he left Ghori. The second battle in which Ghori was successful, so he didn't leave Chauhan. So this is the case. So that's the establishment of the first Muslim empire in Indian territory, with Muhammad Ghori taking a firm stand that he would start an empire. As part of it, after defeating these, next battle was the battle of Chandwar. So Chandwar battle, it was against Jayachandra of Kanauj, the Gahadwala ruler of Kanauj, Jayachandra. So he was defeated. Later, the two trusted lieutenants of Ghori, one was Kutubuddin Aibak and second one was Bhakhtiyar Khilji. So they were sent. Kutubuddin Aibak, he defeated the areas in central and western India. So Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, these areas they were defeated by Aibak, and Khilji, he penetrated into till Bengal. So when on his way to Bengal, Bhaktiar Khilji has destroyed the Nalanda University. So that's how Vajrayana Buddhism and even Mahayana Buddhism to a great extent, it migrated to Tibet. So the Buddhist monks, they have taken the books and other things and they have left to Tibet from Nalanda. So he destroyed Nalanda and then he moved to the Sena territory of Bengal. So in Bengal, Palas, they were succeeded by Senas. Sena dynasty was ruling Bengal. So Lakshmana Sena was defeated by Bhaktiar Khilji, right? And he could go up to Assam and then there he died, something happened, right? So he had to return, he had some plans of going to China, all these things. But in 1206, so Qutbuddin Aibak, he was appointed as the governor of Ghori in India. Right, in India, he was appointed as the governor. After death of Ghori, Aibak declared independence and he has started the Mamluk or the slave dynasty. So 1206 onwards, we see Delhi Sultanate, the beginning of Delhi Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate. Delhi Sultanate. So 5 important ones. There are some like Aram Shah and others, not that significant. So in the slave dynasty, that has ruled from 1206 to 1290. So we see these people. First one, Aibak. So he ruled just for 4 years, right? So in these 4 years, he did subjugate the Rajput states, especially Gwalior, Ranthambore. These states, they were subjugated, they were brought under the control of Delhi Sultanate, and especially he could gain control of the Ganga Yamuna Doe bridge. He died accidentally while playing polo in 1210, and he was succeeded by his son-in-law Iltutmish. So his son was inefficient, so the nobles thought ki they should have an efficient guy. So Iltutmish was brought in and he was crowned to be the Sultan. So Iltutmish, so he is said to be the original founder of Delhi Sultanate because he was the one who provided stability to Sultanate. So Iltutmish, he started an institution called Chihalgani. He started the Ikta system. 2 important things. Chihalgani, it was a group of 40 Turkish nobles. So who are given military responsibilities, who were given jagirs and all the other influential things, so that they would stand in support of the emperor. So he created this institution in Delhi. Chihalgani is one thing. Second thing, Ikta system, where land grants would be given to the chiefs. So they are appointed as governors, they are given land assignments. So Iktadars, they are called as Iktadars, they are called as so Valis, Muktis and all these things. So Iktadari system. So land grants, or you can say land assignments to the military chiefs and other important nobles. This is one thing. So these 2 things started by him. And Iltutmish, the other challenge he had to face was the challenge of the Mongol invasions. So through diplomacy, he could avoid the Mongol invasion into India. He didn't provide shelter to the Khwarizmi princes who came into Delhi for refuge. He said, I can't tolerate the Mongol invasion, please leave. So that's how the Mongol invasion was avoided. This is another challenge he had to face, Mongol invasion, right? So in this process, he had to subjugate many of the other rebels, Rajputs and all these things. So he is the real founder of Delhi Sultanate. So he has even completed the construction of Qutub Minar. So Qutub Minar, which was started by Aibak, it was completed by Iltutmish. So Quwwatul Islam Mosque, it was also completed by him. Qutub Minar was completed by him. So these things he has done during his time period. So he was succeeded by his daughter Razia. He appointed his daughter to be the successor because he felt his daughter is more efficient than his sons and all that. So but Razia Sultana, so she had to face severe opposition from the same Chihalgani because she was a woman and she was presumably close to an Abyssinian slave, right? Because of these reasons, so she was not receiving the support from the Iqtadars as well as the Chihalgani members. So she had to face rebellions, and in that process itself she was killed. So she had a very brief tenure, so she was murdered on her way to Delhi, so by robbers and all that. So this thing, it did happen. Razia Sultana. Next, we had two others but not that significant. Next one, Naziruddin Muhammad, but his 20 years of rule, it was dictated by Balban. Balban was the member of Chihalgani. He was one of the 40 members. So he became the Naib. So there was this office called Naib. Naib means deputy to king, next to king. So Balban was the Naib for 20 years, for very long time during Naziruddin times. So he used to control, and finally Naziruddin Muhammad one day ended to be dead, poisoned and dead, and Balban, he became the emperor. So the importance of Balban is that Balban, he restored the authority of emperor in Delhi Sultanate, right? So the office of emperor, it has become a very non-serious affair because of Razia Sultana, Naziruddin Muhammad and others, but Balban could restore that authority and dignity to the office. So certain things he has introduced Balban: Sisda, Paibos, the concept of Zile-Ilahi, these things, Sisda, Paibos, and you can even add Nowruz festival, the Parsi New Year. So Sisda, Paibos, they were Persian practices of kissing the hand of the emperor, so prostrating before the emperor, so Sashtanga Namaskara, and then kissing the hand. All these things, they were Persian practices introduced to instill fear in the minds of nobles. So next, Zile-Ilahi means he declared emperor to be the shadow of God on earth. So Zile-Ilahi means shadow of God on earth. Next, Nowruz, it was a Parsi festival. So he was, we can call him as a Parsophile, like Anglophile and all that, Francophile. He was a Parsophile. So this person, he was very much in awe with the Persian culture. So he introduced Nowruz. So he even declared that he was descendant of a famous Persian warrior called Afrasiyab. All these things, they were there in his time. So Balban, so he controlled the Iktas and all these things, and he has even started the Diwan-e-Arz, Department for Military Affairs, was started by him. So you can call it as department or ministry. So Diwan-e-Arz for military affairs. So for regularization of army in a proper way. So he had to face the same issue of Mongol incursions into India. So he did strengthen the fortifications and all these things in northwest border to prevent the Mongol incursions. In that process, he had to even lose his son. So that's how by 1290, due to death of Balban and weak successors, this slave dynasty, it did end. Right? See, within slave dynasty or this slave group, we find three things. First one was Mamluk, that is Qutbuddin Aibak. So Iltutmish was the founder of first Ilabari dynasty. First Ilabari dynasty by Iltutmish. Second Ilbari dynasty, it was by Balban. Second Ilbari, these are all Turkish tribes. second Dilibari dynasty by Balban, so who was extremely racist in his outlook. So he was of particular decision that all the high officers in the government would belong only to Turks, so not to anybody else, right? He was non-inclusive in his outlook of administration and all such things, right? So next, from 1219 to 1292, you can say around like 1320, it was the Khilji dynasty started by Jalaluddin Khilji. So Jalaluddin Khilji, he was the head of the armed forces in northwest India, looking after the Mongols, so preventing the Mongols from entering into India. So he was a very tough general. So he could claim the support of the nobles, and in 1290 he became the emperor of India, Jalaluddin Khilji. Right. So Jalaluddin Khilji is the first Delhi Sultan ruler to include Hindus into administration. He felt that without Hindus, so you can't govern this country because it's a Hindu majority country and all that. So he included Hindus for the first time into administration. So he was killed in 1296 by Alauddin Khilji. Right. So Padmavathulo chusuntaru kada. Right, he was killed. Right, from 1296 onwards till 1316, it is the time period of the famous Alauddin Khilji. For 20 years, Alauddin Khilji was the ruler, and during this Alauddin Khilji's times, we see the expansion of Islam into south, the expansion of political Islam to south. So he was the one who defeated, especially his general Malik Kafur was the one who defeated the Devagiri Yadavas, Kakatiyas of Warangal, next Hoysalas, and then Pandyas. All these regional kingdoms, Kampili, all these kingdoms, they were all defeated. They had to accept the sovereignty of Alauddin Khilji. Right, Pandyas, Hoysalas, Kakatiyas and Yadavas. So these things they were done. So in Rameshwaram, so the southernmost point where Malik Kafur has reached, a mosque was also constructed in remembrance, or you can say in memory of the victory of Alauddin Khilji over South India. Right, this thing was done. And Alauddin Khilji, he is known for another act of intolerance, that is, he destroyed the Somnath Mandir again. So the mandir which was reconstructed by Hindus, it was destroyed by him. So when he defeated the Baghelas of Gujarat, he destroyed this temple. So this was done by him. And then we know the famous attack on Ratan Singh of Chittorgarh, right? That happened. He attacked Ranthambore. So all these Rajput principalities were also defeated by Alauddin Khilji. So politically, so he was at its peak because he could defeat practically everyone in Indian subcontinent. So this was the case. And Alauddin Khilji even had the dreams of conquering the world and all such things, but they didn't materialize. He even took the title Sikandar, which means Alexander in Persian. So Alexander means, so Sikandar is a word used for Alexander in Persian, so he has taken this as title to him. So military reforms, he is known for two things. One is military reforms and second one is market reforms. So coming to the military reforms, Dag and Chehra. So Dag, it is branding of the horses to prevent what you can say, proxy horses coming into armed forces. Right. So low quality horses shouldn't enter. So he started this practice of branding the horses. Second, Chehra, it is the descriptive role of the soldier, so that the one who got selected should be there, not somebody else in his place. Right. So Chehra is the descriptive role of the soldier. So these two things, they were strictly implemented by him. Next, coming to market reforms. So his market reforms were regarding, so he was the first ruler to understand the concept of inflation. Right. So concept of inflation, concept of market regulation for the first time was tried by at an extensive scale by this ruler. I think we can say that even in the world he was the first to recognize this problem of inflation and to reduce it. Alauddin Khilji, he had to maintain a large army for his imperialistic motives. Obviously, he had to maintain large army. He had to pay them in cash. When he pays them in cash, it should not lead to inflation, because if he pays them in cash and inflation rises, he has to pay more cash to them. It would be a perennial problem to him. To avoid it, he wanted to control the prices in the market. That's the reason why he came up with market reforms. So total of 4 markets were organized. So one for grain, one for cattle, slaves and horses, one for groceries, one for miscellaneous items. So total 4 markets. Next, Shah-e-Mandi or Shan-e-Mandi, he was the official appointed to regulate these markets. So Mandi means market. Next, Diwan-e-Riyasat. So this ministry was ministry to look after the markets. Diwan-e-Riyasat, department to regulate markets or ministry, you can call it. Next, Munhiyans and then Barids. So they were spies, intelligence people and spies, agents you can call, who were appointed to regulate the, or you can say to report to the king and to the higher officials regarding any kind of market fluctuations, any kind of black marketing, any kind of hoarding in the market. They have to be reported by these people, Barids and Munhiyans. So Shah-e-Mandi, Diwan-e-Riyasat, Munhiyans, Barids. So this entire institutional things, they have come up during Alauddin Khilji's time for market reforms. So this is about Alauddin Khilji. So the imperialist, the market reformer and the army reformer, right? So next, so after Alauddin Khilji, we don't find any significant ruler as such, right? For 4 years there was uncertainty. Malik Kafur, he tried to become the emperor, he couldn't because he was not having the support of these people, the nobles and others. So for 4 years there was severe instability. So using that instability, the Tughlaqs, they could come to power. So Tughlaqs under Ghiyazuddin Tughlaq. Right. So Ghiyazuddin Tughlaq, so 1320 to 1325, he was only for 5 years, right? So he was the founder. So during his times, the important thing happened was, he re-established the authority of Delhi over entire South India by sending one person by name Zona Khan. Zona Khan or Zuna Khan, on a later date he became famous with the title Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So this person, he was sent to south because the southern entities, Devagiri Yadavas, Kakatiyas of Warangal, Hoysalas of this Halebit, so they started defying the orders of Delhi. So they started declaring independence because for 4 years there was lot of uncertainty in Delhi, naturally it happens. So he re-established authority of Delhi over Bengal and South India. This is his contribution in the limited period of 5 years. He was succeeded by the famous or infamous Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So Muhammad bin Tughlaq, so 1325 to 1351. Right, or simply you can say 3 C's, coins, currency, capital and then China. So 3 factors led to his downfall. The first thing he did was introduction of token currency in place of, so his thought process was simple. In China, Kublai Khan, the Mongol ruler Kublai Khan, he introduced paper currency what we are using today. So paper currency was introduced by Kublai Khan. So this news has reached Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He got the idea that I should also start this token currency. When it is successful there, see, token currency is nothing but the currency which has got no intrinsic value. Okay, the paper 2000 rupee note, does it have the value of 2000? The paper as such, intrinsic value, it is not there. It has the value because the government said so. So token, that's it. So on the face of it, it is written 2000, so it has the value of 2000 rupees. So in the same way, in medieval times, he tried to do the same thing with currency. He said that copper coins would be in prevalence. So copper coins would have the value of gold coin, silver coin and copper coin. It would be decided by the government. So what should be what and all these things, what should be the value and all these things. So, but the idea was good. The thing was, every house it has become a mint. So everyone started minting their own copper coins with denomination written on it that it is of gold value, right? So it has become a failed experiment. Inflation increased. So finally he had to withdraw to the older system of gold, silver and copper coins, right? So this is his first failed experiment because of improper implementation. The second thing was shift of the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, that is Devagiri in Maharashtra. He said two reasons. The first reason was Mongol invasions. So Delhi is very much near, or you can say it is proximate to the attacks from the Mongols. The second reason he said was Daulatabad, it is very much in the center, so it would be helpful for the for the emperor to govern the areas from north and south, right? So stating these two reasons, he shifted the capital to Daulatabad. So this was not successful. It was a grand failure because he ordered all the people of Delhi also to come along with him, right? Later on he shifted the capital from Daulatabad again to Delhi. In this process, thousands of people, old, children and all these things, they have died. So this was his second disastrous decision. Third decision of him was maintaining a large army so that he could invade on China. He could invade on West Asia, Central Asia, China, this part he wanted to occupy. You can call it as Transoxiana. Oxus river anukunnam kada. So that region, it is known as Transoxiana. So he wanted to occupy Transoxiana. So in that expectation, he maintained a very large army, but he ventured into Transoxiana in peak winter. So many have died. So many couldn't survive the temperatures and all that. So many died. He had to disband that entire experiment, but it costed him a bomb. So huge amounts were burnt on that unnecessary expedition into Transoxiana. So these are the three major events of the Tughlaq era. So finally Tughlaq, he died in 1351 in pursuance of some rebellion. So he went there, but he couldn't maintain. The other important thing during his time was the disintegration of Delhi Sultanate got started during his times. The weakening of Delhi Sultanate, because two independent kingdoms got started during his time period. One is Vijayanagara and the other one is Bahmanis. It is one important event. 1336 Vijayanagara Empire, 1347 Bahmani Empire, right? So this is another important political event. Next, another thing is, he is the one who started Diwan-e-Aman Kohi or Aman Kohi or Amir Kohi. This is Ministry for Agriculture. Agriculture. So he is the one who has even developed a large model farm. So large model farm. So in huge square kilometers of area, it was developed by him. So he took great interest in agriculture, and he was the one who initiated something called Takkavi loans. So distress loans to be given to farmers. మీరు ఈరోజు రాస్తున్నారు, ఈరోజు నోట్స్ తేలేదా? రాయలేదా? ఓకే. So Takkavi loans. So they were issued by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So Diwan-e-Aman Kohi, Takkavi loans, these three failed experiments, and political disintegration of Delhi Sultanate. All these things, they did happen during Tughlaq's time period. Next, Firoz Tughlaq. Firoz Shah Tughlaq. See, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the first literate and educated emperor of Delhi Sultanate. Okay. Firoz Shah. So Firoz Shah Tughlaq, he is known for starting a department for slaves. A department for slaves got started under him, and he was the one who took great interest in irrigation. So irrigation channels in Haryana and Delhi, in western Uttar Pradesh. So even to the extent of 200-kilometer long irrigation canals in Hisar, Sirsa areas of Haryana, even in western UP. So they were developed under his regime. So irrigation. And third important thing is, he was the one who preserved Ashokan inscriptions. Ashokan inscriptions were preserved by him. He couldn't decipher the script because the Brahmins and others, they were not able to read it. So he just preserved them. So Ashokan inscriptions, but his times, they are generally known for the degeneration of the Delhi Sultanate, because he gave extreme freedom to Iqtadars, Jagirdars, slaves and all these people. To Maulvis, Mullahs and all these people, he has given extensive freedom. So it is the time period of degeneration of the Delhi Sultanate. Right. So during the Tughlaq times itself, in 1398, we see something called the attack of Taimur on India. So Taimur, the ruler of Samarkand. So Samarkand, it is a place in Uzbekistan. He was the ruler of that area, Central Asian region. So he understood that politically North India is not at all guarded. So he could cross the Khyber Pass with no opposition at all. He could enter Delhi, looted Delhi, killed many people, went back. So he took so many artisans and all the other craftsmen to Delhi. So people of Delhi, they were carried away as slaves and craftsmen to Samarkand, and he has built the beautiful city of Samarkand using Indian slaves and craftsmen. Right. So the invasion by Taimur, it was the important event, 1398, during Tughlaq era itself. Tughlaqs were the longest reigning dynasty in the Delhi Sultanate. Right. Next, in 1414, Tughlaq era, it has ended, and Sayyid dynasty, it has come into picture. So Sayyid dynasty, it has come into picture. These Sayyids, for a very long time, they declared themselves to be feudatories of Taimur. They said that we are not independent entities, we are just the feudatories of Taimur. Such was the fear of Taimur. The first ruler in the Sayyids was Khizr Khan. So Khizr Khan, Mubarak Shah, Muhammad Shah, all these people were there. So not of much consequence. So no need to discuss also. Right. During the Sayyid times, so during this time period, we see declaration of independence by Bengal, and then we see the rise of a new dynasty called the Sharki dynasty. Sharkis in Jaunpur area of Uttar Pradesh. But it is of less importance because they existed for a brief period of time, but they did construct a good amount of architecture. We will discuss it when we discuss art and architecture. So Sharkya architecture, it is famous. Right. So in Uttar Pradesh area, Sharkis, they did get created. Next, the Sayyids, they have voluntarily given up the power and they have given it to Lodis. So Lodis, they were the Afghans, the last dynasty in Delhi Sultanate. right? So three people we see. Bahlul Lodi, Sikandar and Ibrahim. Sikandar Lodi is the most important among all, right? So Bahlul Lodi, he could defeat many independent entities, he could defeat the Rajputs, he could defeat the Sharkis, so he could strengthen the office of Delhi Sultanate. Next, Sikandar Lodi. Sikandar Lodi, same, so he did stabilize the empire, and importantly, he has written a book called Gul Rakhi. Gul Rakhi, a book was written by him in Persian. Next thing is, Sikandar Lodi, he has reformed the revenue system. He has introduced an instrument to measure the land called Gaz-e-Sikandari. Next, Ibrahim Lodi. So Gaz-e-Sikandari, sorry. Next one Sikandar Lodi did was, he has built the famous Agra fort with red sandstone. Agra fort was developed by him. Right, so this is about Sikandar Lodi, the important one. Next, Ibrahim Lodi, the last ruler. So nothing much about him. So he was arrogant and all that. So his cousins and all these people, they were against him. So against him, they have invited Babur. So Babur came. He defeated Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat in 1526. He died in that battle, and that's the end of Delhi Sultanate. So 1526, with death of Ibrahim Lodi in the battle, the Delhi Sultanate also ended, and the foundation stone of Mughal Empire, it got laid in that battle, right? So this is about the Delhi Sultanate. So Khiljis were the shortest dynasty but most impactful. So Tughlaqs, they were the longest reigning dynasty within the Delhi Sultanate, right? 4. So among them, this is the case. Right. Now coming to administration. अमन को ही विजारत So to king, so these were the people who were assisting Diwan-e-Wizarat, finance affairs. So at times we will also see somebody called Naib. So the deputy to king. Some instances we also see the office of Vakil. So Vakil is also a term used for prime minister. So Wizarat essentially finances, Arz defenses, Aman Kohi agriculture, Bandagan slavery, Qazi judge, Sadr religious affairs. So for the administration of city law and order, Kotwal was also there. Especially for Delhi, there was Kotwal. So all these offices, they used to assist king in his functioning, right? This is the thing. See, another thing you need to remember in the administration thing is, Delhi Sultans in the initial days, they used to declare their allegiance to Caliph. Okay, so they used to declare that they are ruling India on behalf of Caliph, and they were even receiving something called Mansur. Mansur is the consent letter sent by Caliph, that okay, I am appointing you as the Emperor of India. Mansur was sent by Caliph. Okay, but later on, so they stopped this practice of sending letter to Caliph, Caliph sending Mansur, all these things, they got stopped, right? So this is the thing, right? Next. Entire kingdom, it was divided into Iktas. Iktas into Shik, Shiks into Paraganas. So Paraganas into into villages. Villages they were led by khuds and mukaddams. Remember, iqtidars, they were not hereditary. They were not hereditary. Iqtas, they were not hereditary institution, right? So sheikhs, paraganas, and then villages. Villages they were led by khuds and mukaddams. So these mukaddams, khuds, even chaudhris, they were highly regulated during the times of Alauddin Khilji, right? Alauddin Khilji, he was very much particular in controlling these village level officials, right? So this is how the provincial administration was maintained, right? Next. So coming to the Delhi Sultanate society, so during the Delhi Sultanate times, we have something called this thing. So within Muslims, we see divisions, so foreigners and then Indians. So foreign Muslims, so it can be the Afghans, that is the Pathans, Turks, all these people, Persians and all that, and then Indians. Indian Muslims, they were called as Sheikhzadas. So the term used for Indians was Sheikhzadas. So this division was very much there. Next, so there was this growth of Biradari system among Muslims. You can see the rise in the Biradari system. Biradari is nothing but your family background. What your father does, what your mother does, what your grandfather used to do. So this is the thing regarding the Biradari system among Muslims. That too got started. And then due to the influence of Muslims in Hindus, the Parda system got started. So Parda system, it has become an intense practice among the Hindus also, especially among the Rajputs and others. So this is the thing. And among Hindus, Sati, it has become a regular thing. The practice of Sati, the practice of Jauhar, right? So Jauhar, it is the practice of Rajput women dying voluntarily, so when they are about to get defeated, right? So this was practiced by them, Sati and then Jauhar. These two things. And Hindu society was, as usual, caste ridden with untouchability and all the other practices. But both Hindu society and Muslim society, they were undergoing a change during the Delhi Sultanate time because of the influence of Bhakti and Sufi movements, right? So this is the thing. We will look at Bhakti and Sufi movements also. This is the thing. Next, society. Coming to economy. We see coins like jitals, mohars, rupiya, all these coins, they were in circulation. Jital was the most popular coin, copper coin, that was in circulation. So next, mohars, they were gold coins, mohars and dinars, generally used for gold. Tanka was the term used for silver coin. Tanka, it was used for silver coin. So rupiya, it was the coin that got introduced by Iltutmish, a silver coin, semi-silver coin, or you can call it a silver coin just. So it was rupiya. So from there itself we got this term rupee and all that. So it was from the Iltutmish times, right? Rupiya. So these were in the coins in prevalence. Next, taxation, we can use, we can say that kharaz was there, khams was the agrarian tax. So khams, it was the land revenue tax, generally 1/3. Kharaz, it was the war booty. So whenever they go for war, they would loot the place. So the loot, the war booty was generally referred to as kharaz. So kharaz, khams. So they were two important sources of revenue to Delhi Sultanate. So apart from that, there were some minor taxes like gharai, house tax, Charai, the tax on grazing lands. So Charai, it was on grazing lands, Gharai, it was on houses. Especially these were strictly collected during Alauddin Khilji's times. Right, this thing. And we see rudimentary form of karkhanas that got started. So karkhanas, they were storehouses and to some extent manufacturing centers for the needs of royal family. So to fulfill the needs of royal family, karkhanas were maintained by Delhi Sultans and even by the Iktas sometimes. So this was how the economy was. And long distance trade, overland trade, especially the slave trade with West Asia, all these things, they were in high prevalence during Delhi Sultan. Right, India was a net exporting country. So no doubt about it. These things, they did happen: administration, society, economy, the political aspects of Delhi Sultanate we have seen. Next. So Bhakti movement, first it was started by the Alvars and Nayanars. So in South India, from the 7th century, or you can say from 8th century onwards, we see group of people called Alvars, Vishnu saints, Nayanars, the Shaiva saints. So they were the first. So what is Bhakti movement? When we say these people started it, we say that Bhakti movement is nothing but democratization of spirituality. So with no need of priests, with no need of Sanskrit language, with no need of rituals, sacrifices and all these things, simply if we can pray to God directly in our own language, in common man words, right, with no complex grammar and all these things, that is Bhakti. So democratization of spirituality. Right. So that democratization of spirituality, it got started with Alvars and Nayanars, because both Alvars, Vishnu Bhaktas and then Shiva Bhaktas, Nayanars. So they have not believed in the concept of caste, they have not believed in the concept of rituals, Sanskrit and all these things. So they used to worship in Tamil, they used to worship, so they had all the caste people in them, women in them, so everybody was there. So it was completely a democratic thing, Bhakti movement. So Alvars, so 12 plus 1 Alvars we have. So 12 male Alvars and 1 female Alvar, Andal. So 12 Alvars, 12 plus 1. So among them, so what they have did is, they have composed certain things like Nalayar Divya Prabandham. Nalayar Divya Prabandham is a Tamil book on by these Alvars. Next, Andal, the 13th Alvar, female Alvar. So she has composed Tiruppavai. So Tiruppavai by Andal. So which is played especially in Dhanurmasa time. So Tiruppavai. So these things, and then they have popularized the 108 Divya Deshas, 108 Vaishnava shrines, they were popularized by these Alvars. 108 Divya Deshas, right. Alvars. Next, Nayanars. So almost like we have 63 Nayanars. You can see their statues in Brihadiswaralaya constructed by Rajaraja Chola, because he was a believer in the Nayanar concept of Bhakti. Right. Among these 63, we can find 4 women Nayanars also. So Nayanars, they have composed a famous book called Thevaram. Appar, Sundarar, Sambandar. So these are the famous Nayanar saints. So they have composed Thevaram, a book on Shiva in Tamil language. So in 63 we have people from all the caste groups. No caste discrimination, no women discrimination, no need of Sanskrit. Simple. No rituals, no sacrifices. Right. They too have popularized the Shiva shrines in South India. So this is about the first school of Bhakti. So we have promoted equality in the society. Next. The next wave of Bhakti movement got popularized because of Adi Shankaracharya. Who has come up with the Advaita philosophy. He has come up with something called Advaita philosophy. Advaita means no duality, no dual. So the cosmos, so the universe and the human, they are made of the same material. They are all one and the same. They exist in the same realm. So we are all, so the Brahma, human, everything is the same. That is Advaita monism or non-duality. So is the right. So Adi Shankaracharya, born in Kaladi of Kerala. So he toured the entire country. So he started this entire concept of Matha. So the idea of Matha, Sannyasi Mathas, it was started by him to have dedicated people who would serve the Sanatan Dharma. Right. So it was started by him, and he established the 4 important shrines at 4 corners of the country. So Kedarnath, Dwaraka, Puri, and then Sringeri. 4 these things. So Kedarnath, Puri, Dwaraka and Sringeri, 4 corners, 4 shrines. So many other temples were also restored by him, renovated by him, and all these things. They were done, and he has written the famous Mahabhashya, a commentary on Upanishads. So Mahabhashya, commentary on Upanishads, was written by him. So he died at a very early age of 32 years, but in this very short age, he could do all these things. He could tour the country, so he could defeat the Buddhists, Jains and others in his debates, right? So he could revive Hindu tradition and this entire concept of Sanatan Dharma, right? So Adi Shankaracharya, and he has even given the concepts of Maya. Maya or Bhranti, illusion. So illusion is the reason for all these differences in the society. Superiority, inferiority, caste, gender, all these are because of Maya, illusion, and he popularized that to avoid Maya, you need to have Gnana. So Advaita philosophy, it advocates Gnana Marga, right? So knowledge is the true path. You need to possess right kind of knowledge to avoid Maya or illusion or Bhranti. So all this is thought process of Adi Shankaracharya under Advaita philosophy, right? So next, in exact opposition to him, Madhvacharya, he has come up with something called Dvaita philosophy, entirely opposite. So Madhvacharya, he says that there is nothing called monism. So God is made of a different material, right? God is made of different material, human is made of different material. We are all inferior to God. These are 2 different realms, right? Human soul and supreme soul. These are 2 different things. So duality is a reality according to him. So he says that the only way to attain moksha is through intense devotion towards God. That's it. Gnana and all these things, they are not correct. It is not Maya, so it is a reality. So to get the grace of the God, you simply have to be extremely devoted towards God. You need to love God, you need to devote yourself to the cause of God. That is the thought process of Madhvacharya. And this is the reason why Madhvacharya Dvaita school of thought, they even support caste system, because they feel caste system is a reality. Because inherent inequality is very much present within the universe. In the scheme of universe itself, we have inherent hierarchies. So that is Madhvacharya. So between them we find Ramanujacharya, the famous Ramanujacharya, who started Vishishtadvaita. So qualified monism. So qualified monism is his philosophy. He says that there are certain areas where human and God, they are same, but there are certain distinct areas where we have to strive to become part of the God. So it's not completely that we are away from God, we are completely not into the God. So we are not the same. So this is how he draws the image of the supreme soul and the human soul. So he says this concept of qualified monism. So Ramanujacharya was also a complete non-believer in the concept of caste. So he started a tradition called Sri Vaishnava tradition. Sri Vaishnava tradition, into which he accepted all the castes. He even went on to the top of the Srirangam temple in Perumbudur, and he has publicly pronounced Gayatri mantra, that everyone should have access to Gayatri mantra. Right? He was a kind of revolutionary. So in this process, he was a Vaishnavite. He was exiled from the Chola territory and he had to take refuge in Melkote of Karnataka. Right? So all these things happened with Ramanujacharya. So Sri Vaishnavism, it was started by him, and he has also started the concept of interdining. The Sri Vaishnavites, interdining concept. So all the castes sitting together and having food. It was a Sri Vaishnava practice. In Telugu it is popularly called as Chapakudu. So everyone sitting in the same line and having food. Right? So Sri Vaishnava tradition, this is one thing. But the other thing is Ramanujacharya is also of the belief that it is all about intense devotion towards the God. So that would make you part of God. Intense devotion. He too doesn't speak of Gnana Marga, so he too speaks of Bhakti Marga, to achieve God. So complete devotion towards God. So this is about Ramanujacharya, who started this Sri Vaishnava tradition. Next. So Vallabhacharya, Shuddha Advaita. Vallabhacharya, he started something called Shuddha Advaita. So Shuddha Advaita, he says, he reinforces the idea set by Shankaracharya, that's it. So pure monism. So we are all one and the same, and he even, he was a Vaishnavite Vallabhacharya, but he starts something called Rudra Sampradaya in North India. Rudra Sampradaya was started by him. So he was also a non-believer in the caste and all these things. So pure monism, Shuddha Advaita. Right. So next. So there are, so the other thing we need to see here is Nirguna Bhakti Sampradaya, Saguna Bhakti Sampradaya. This is another thing. Nirguna Bhakti Sampradaya, it deals with the concept like, so where they say God has got no form. So God has got no form, God is everywhere, we need not personify God. So that is Nirguna Sampradaya. So Kabir and others, they belong to this Nirguna Sampradaya. Next, Saguna Sampradaya, so they believe that God has got form. We can personify God, we have to worship God in some statue form and all that. So that is Saguna. So Guna means attributes, qualities. So Nirguna, they say that God has got no qualities. He doesn't appear in blue, he doesn't wear gold. So all these qualities, don't attribute them to God. But Saguna, they say nothing wrong in attributing some qualities to God. Right? So Saguna Sampradaya, best example Mirabai. Nirguna Sampradaya, best example Kabir. Next. So Vallabhacharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanuja, Shankara, we have seen these people, right? Next important one, Ramananda. Ramananda. So Ramananda, he of North India, he gives this, what you can say, he started this entire Vaishnava Sampradaya, or Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya was started by Ramananda in North. So Ramananda was also was completely in disassociation with the idea of caste. So he abhorred caste, he was against caste, and he had disciples from all the communities. So he had this distinction of having disciples from all the communities. Some 12 disciples are there, famous ones. So Kabir, Dhanna, Sena, so Pipla. So all these disciples, they are from different caste groups and even religions. So Rama Sita tradition, it was popularized by him. Right, and he was instrumental in developing Hindi literature, so or Hindustani language in 15th century, Ramananda. Next, Kabir, his disciple. So he is popular for his Nirguna Sampradaya, his Doha, which were later on composed as Bijak. So the famous book Bijak, and Kabir, he is famous for popularizing this Awadhi language. It's not language as such, it is one of the dialects of Hindi. So the Awadhi dialect of Hindi, it was popularized by Kabir through his Doha. So he was the one who gave this concept of Ram and Rahim to be the same. So Hindu, Muslim, by all these concepts, fraternity among the communities, it was by him. He was a Muslim weaver. Right? Next one, Dadu Dayal. Dadu Dayal. He is of Rajasthan. So this is called as Dadu Panthi. So same, equality, freedom of thought, all these things, they were popularized by this Dadu Dayal from this 16th century. Even Akbar was follower of this Dadu Dayal. Next, Surdas. Surdas, he was the one who dedicated himself to Krishna Bhakti. So Krishna Bhakti, his famous work, Sur Sagar. So same, he used to write Doha, poetry and all these things. So Surdas, Sur Sagar. Sur Sagar. Next, important, Tulsidas. So Tulsidas, so Ramcharitmanas, Hanuman Chalisa, so Kavitavali, Geetavali, all these are the works by Tulsidas. So Ramcharitmanas, even today in North, it is considered to be the authoritative text on Ramayana. Okay. So this is the one, Ramcharitmanas. So Hanuman Chalisa. So these are the two. So he could completely popularize this idea of Rama, Ayodhya, Hanuman to be the Bhakta of Rama. All these things, they got established because of Tulsidas. So he was this writer and all these things located in Varanasi in UPSC. So same, he also popularized this Awadhi dialect of Hindi. It has become the main dialect of Hindi because of Tulsidas. Right. Coming to Eastern India, in break. So we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, next Jayadeva, next Shankaradeva, So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was the one who popularized this Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Gaudiya Vaishnavism or Bengal school of Vaishnavism. It was popularized by him. He wrote this Ramayana, Bhagavata, different stories of Krishna, Rama in Bengali language. It was written by him. Next, he came up with the idea, or you can say philosophy of Achintya Bheda Bheda. Achintya Bheda Bheda. So if you think the difference is there between the human soul and supreme soul, it is there. If you think there is no difference, there is no difference. It is all up to your perception, knowledge level and bhakti, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Achintya Bheda Abheda. Whether difference is there or not, it is up to you. So this is the thing. So this is about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he contributed to Bengali language to a very high extent. Next, Jayadeva, who wrote Gita Govinda. So Gita Govinda, he wrote it in Sanskrit, but his other works, poems and all these things, it has developed Oriya language. Oriya language was developed by him. So he could wean away Prataparudra Gajapati from the affairs of kingdom. So Prataparudra Gajapati, the Gajapati ruler of Orissa, he has left his kingdom, got inspired by the thought process of Jayadeva, and he has also moved into this Bhakti tradition. This is about Jayadeva. Next, Shankaradeva or Srimanta Shankaradeva, popularly called as, this person, he has got heavy influence in the areas of Assam and Manipur. Right? In Assam and Manipur, he has popularized Vaishnavism. Don't go by his name Shankaradeva. His name is Shankaradeva, but popularized Vaishnavism. Okay? So he is instrumental in the development of Satriya and Manipuri dances. He is instrumental in the development of Assamese and Manipuri languages. Right? So now the Manipur clashes are going on, right? The Meithis, they are majority of the Meithis, they are Vaishnavites. It is because of Shankaradeva, right? So they are Hindus, they are Vaishnavites because of his influence. So Radha Krishna tradition, you can find it very strongly in the Manipuri dance. It is because of Shankaradeva, right? So Shankaradeva, he is of immense, and he has even started mathas called Jatras, Vaishnava Jatras. They were popularized by him in Assam. So they are like semi-Vaishnava shrines or matas. So Jatras by Shankaradeva. Right. So all this is Bhakti movement that was present in eastern India, Bengal, Orissa and Assam region. Next, Western India. So in Gujarat, it is Narsingh Mehta. So Narsingh Mehta in Gujarat, he was the one who wrote the famous Vaishnava Janto. So the famous song of Mahatma Gandhi, it was written by Narsingh Mehta. He was a Vaishnava saint who popularized Vaishnavism in Gujarat. So that is why we find more number of, either it can be Jain Baniya, or you will find Vaishnava Baniyas. So the trading community in Gujarat. It is the influence of Narsingh Mehta. So Gandhi, even today Amit Shah, they are all this sect of people, right? Fine. So this is about Narsingh Mehta, who popularized Vaishnavism. Next, in Maharashtra, you will find a lot of Bhakti saints. So Maharashtra, the first one, Gnaneshwar Deva or Gnana Deva. So he is the one, he wrote Amritanubhava. So Gnana Deva or Gnaneshwar, he wrote Amritanubhava. So about Upanishads, and he has also written Haripantha. Haripantha is another work. Next, Namdev. So Namdeva, so he has popularized Marathi language with his poems. He was actually a Bandit, so later on got converted to this Bhakti movement and all that. And he is part of the Dadu Panthi. So he is one of the 5 in the Dadu Panthi. In Dadu Panthi, we find 5 people. One is Dadu, the second one is Kabir, third one is Hardas, Ravidas, and then Namdev. Haridas, Ravidas, Namdev, this Dadu, and then Kabir. So these 5 people, we call them as Dadu Panth people. So Namdev was one among these Dadu Panthis. Next, Eknath, 16th century. Eknath. So he has written this famous Marathi work, Barud. Was written by him. Next, Tukaram is the next one. Tukaram and then Ramdas, Samartha Ramdas. These two people, they are of 17th century, contemporaries to Shivaji. Right. Contemporaries to Shivaji. So Tukaram, he has popularized the Marathi literary tradition called Abhangs. Abhang, it is a Marathi literary tradition. Right. This is the thing. So Bharut. So all these Ramdas. So it is said, some historians they say that Ramdas is the teacher of Shivaji. Some they don't accept it. So recently that controversy is also going on. Right. So whether he is the teacher of Shivaji or not, so that controversy is still live. So this is about the Bhakti tradition in Maharashtra region. Because of this region, because of this Bhakti tradition in Maharashtra region, we see the growth of Marathi language, and we see the growth of Marathi unity. So Marathi unity, it got increased, and it was very much helpful for Shivaji in future times. Shivaji and then Peshwas, they could use this entire concept of unity, equality, Marathi language and all these things for expansion of this Maratha kingdom. Right? This is the thing. So there are smaller ones, or you can say not smaller ones, sorry to use this term. Right, there are others like Annamacharya. In Telugu if you see, Annamacharya, so he was the one who popularized this Venkateshwara tradition in Telugu specially through his Pada Kavitas. Pada Kavitas means the poems which are very much understood by common people. Right. So this is one tradition. So he is of 15th century. Next, there is this Haridasa tradition popular in Karnataka. So Haridasa tradition. So under this tradition, people would be singing praises and other things to Vishnu and other forms of Hari. So the famous one in this Haridasa tradition is Kanakadasa. The famous one is Kanakadasa. So he has composed several kirtanas and other things. So Kanakadasa, Purandaradasa. So these are the important people in this Haridasa tradition. So Purandaradasa. Next. So the last one, latest one was Tyagaraja. So who has composed several kritis. So Tyagaraja, who has composed several kritis. So one thing I have left out deliberately was Veerashaiva tradition, which is one of the most powerful movements got started in the Bhakti movement by Mahatma Basaveshwara. Mahatma Basaveshwara, he started the Veerashaiva tradition, or the now called as the Lingayat tradition. It was started by him. So he gave the concepts of Kayaka, Dasoha, Anubhava Mantapa, Ishtalinga, Dhuli Darsana, intercaste marriage, and then so no to caste. All these things they were started by, these were the ideas of Mahatma Basaveshwara. Right. So Kayaka, under this concept of Kayaka, he says that human body itself is temple to God. So there is no need of constructing huge temples by wasting money. So it's better to use it for poor people, needy people. So body itself is temple, right? Your head is Gopura, your limbs are pillars, so your heart is Garbhagriha for Shiva. So that's it. This is the concept of Kayaka. Second, and under this concept of Kayaka itself, he says that he gives this idea of Kayakavai Kailasa. Kayakavai Kailasa means your body itself is Kailasa, no need of temples and all these things. And he also popularizes under this idea of Kayaka, everyone should do hard work. So hard work should not be limited to certain sections of society. Everyone should be involved in physical work. Everyone must be involved in physical work is another important idea within Kayaka. So Kayaka by Kailasa and Kayaka as hard work. So next Dasoha, it is extreme devotion towards Shiva. So Dasoha, it is complete devotion towards Shiva, the idea of Shiva. Next, Anubhava Mantapa, it was a kind of parliament started by Mahatma Basaveshwara. Basaveshwara was a minister, right? So he could start this Anubhava Mantapa where women, people of any caste can come and can express their grievances, can debate, can do all these things. It was a kind of parliament, a democratic institution. Next, Ishtalinga. So this concept he popularized at Ki. So you can wear a small Ishtalinga on your body. So like an amulet, so that Shiva would always stay with you. There is no need of visiting the temple. If Brahmins don't allow you in temple, so take God with you everywhere. So that's it. That is Ishtalinga. Next, Dhuli Darshana. So under this concept of Dhuli Darshana, he wanted to break the rules of purity and pollution. So in Varnashrama Dharma, the important thing is pollution, purity, right? So he said Dhuli Darshana is very much acceptable. So when you enter a temple, you need not be clean, you need not bath and all these things. You can enter even after doing regular work. Because God knows that the dust, sweat and everything, they are part of universe. Alright. So that is the idea of Dhuli Darshana. So the rules of purity, sanitation, so he was against them. Next, so in medieval times, the recorded intercaste marriage, first recorded intercaste marriage in medieval times was done by Basaveshwara. Between an upper caste woman and a lower caste boy, he has conducted it. Next, so obviously he said no to caste system and all that. He wanted the Lingayata tradition to be free of sects and caste. Right. So all these were popularized by Basaveshwara and this concept of Veera Shaiva. Right, along with Mahatma Basaveshwara, the other important one was Akka Mahadevi. So Akka Mahadevi, Mahatma Basaveshwara and other, they have written so much of Vachana literature. They did write so much of Vachana literature in Kannada. Vachana, it is a literary process like Abhang, Padakavitas and all that. It is a literary process, right, in Kannada. So this is about Mahatma Basaveshwara, and taking inspiration from him, in Telangana region we find Shiva Kavis. So Palgurki Somnatha, Nannechoda and others, they were Shiva Kavis who have introduced easier language poems in Telugu. So this Shiva Kavi Yuga in Telugu literature, in this Telugu tradition, it is very much inspired by the Veerashaiva tradition, right? So this is about Veerashaiva movement, one of the important movements of Bhakti movement. Right, Sufi movement. So Tasawwuf. So this is the term from which we see the beginning of this entire terminology of Sufi movement has come into picture. See, Tasawwuf is the term associated with knowledge. It is the term associated with something called knowledge. Right. See, Sufi movement, this is all about the spirit of Quran in its true sense. In 7th century, around 640 and all that, we see the rise of Islam, the beginning of Islam. And by 1000 and all that, even in Islam, certain aspects like hierarchical society, So deviation from the path of Quran, all these things they got started. So against it, a group of saints, they have begun this activity called this Sufi tradition. In this Sufi tradition, we see certain things like, for example, we have silsilas. So the schools of thought within Sufi tradition. So silsilas. Next, we have kankhas. So kankhas, they are the places of stay where the Sufi saints reside to spread their thought and all these things. They stay in kankhas. So silsilas, they are the schools of thought within the Sufi tradition. These two things you need to remember. So coming to the ones who have started this entire Sufi tradition, the first one was Abu Hamid al-Ghazali. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali is the first noted Sufi saint. Next one, Ahmad al-Ghazali, his brother Ahmad al-Ghazali is another one. Ahmad. Next, the famous one, Jalaluddin Rumi. Jalaluddin Rumi, right? So he was written about God, so mysticism, so life and all these things, right? These things. So about Jalaluddin Rumi, he has written this famous book called Masnavi. Famous work of him, full of quotes and all that. Masnavi. Right.
So were both the movements, Bhakti and Sufi, at the same time?
No, Bhakti Sufi movement, it was an Islamic thing. It got started in Persia. Later on, it came into India along with the Delhi Sultan people. So these Mamluks and others, with their entry into India, the Sufi tradition also entered into India. So for a very long period, Sufi saints and Bhakti saints, they coexisted. Right. So Masnavi, it is one thing. So Sufi movement. So next, coming to the essential elements of Sufi movement, or you can say Sufi tradition as such. Oh, Kadesh, ikkadiki vachara. Peer Murid relation. So Peer is the Guru, Murid is the Shishya. So disciple, Guru, Shishya, Parampara, they call it as the Peer Murid. Next, Sama. Sama, it is the mystical music. So mystical music that helps Sufis to get into a kind of trance. So Sama. Next, Ziyarat. So Ziyarat is pilgrimage to Sufi shrines. So pilgrimage to Sufi shrines. So especially dargahs, the tombs of the Sufi saints. So they do visit. So Ajmer and all these people, the pilgrimage part is Ziyarat. Next, Zikr. Zikr, it is meditation and repetition of certain kinds of Quranic verses. So simply like mantras and other things. So some would be repeated. So Zikr, Ziyarat, Sama, Peer Murid. These are the four essential elements of Sufi thought. They can be of any silsila, but generally they follow in these four with some rare exceptions. Right. So this is the thing. Inner purity, self-discipline, so dedication towards the peer, all these are essential aspects of Sufism. So as usual, Sufism, it believes in complete equality, right? So access to religion to common people. So all these things, they are spread by Sufi thought, right? Next, Sufism in India. So Sufi thought process in India. In India, it is divided among certain silsilas. Chishti, Khadri, Naqshbandi or Chishti. After that, you can take Suhrawardi, Naqshbandi or Naqshbandi. Next, Khadri. These are the 4 silsilas we see in India, right? So in Chishti silsila, the most famous one is Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti. Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, Sheikh Salim Chishti, Nizamuddin Alia, all these are the famous ones of Chishti order, right? So Moinuddin Chishti Dargah, Ajmer, famous one. Nizamuddin Dargah in Delhi city. So it is the famous one. So Chistis, they are very popular because of their inclusiveness, because of their equality, and most importantly, Chistis, they don't accept any kinds of gifts and other things from kings. So kings and royals, they stay away from royal positions, gifts and all these things. So wantedly, so that they would stay simple. So this is about Chishti order. So Chishti order, it was popularized in Deccan by Bande Nawab Gisu Daraj. There is one Sufi saint called Bande Nawab Gisu Daraj who popularized Sufism in south, especially in Gulbarga, right? This is about Chishti order. Next, Suhrawardi order. So Suhrawardi order, it was by Shihabuddin Suhrawardi and Bahauddin Zakaria. Shihabuddin Suhrawardi and Bahauddin Zakaria, they have popularized Suhrawardi thought process. It is opposite to Chistis in certain aspects, especially Suhrawardis, they believe that there is nothing wrong in accepting wealth. So they accept wealth, they accept official positions in royal darbars. So all these things they would be doing. So they say that knowledge, wealth and power, these 3 are important for continuance of this thought process and all that. Next, Naqshbandi people, they are very much simple, right? They are very simple, but the only thing is they are very much against Chishti order and they are very much conservative with regarding their outlook towards Hinduism. So towards Hinduism, Buddhism and all that, they are very much conservative. They feel that Islam should be purged of all the anti-Islamic beliefs that got entered into Islam. So because of this, they are always in opposition to Chistis. So in Chistis valla Hindu traditions, they are getting into Islam, right? So Buddhist traditions and all that, let's oppose Chistis. That was their main idea, Naqshbandi. Next, Khadris, they are close to Chistis in their thought process. They are for religious tolerance, they are for equality and all these things. So Naqshbandi, it was by Khwaja Bahauddin Naqshbandi. Khwaja Bahauddin Naqshbandi. So Khadri Silsila, it was by Shah Badakshani. Shah Badakshani. He was the one who popularized Khadri order. Right, these are the 4 silsilas and their growth and all that. So in south it is because of this person Bande Nawab Gisu Daraj, but the original one who introduced this entire Sufi concept into India was Al-Hujwiri. Al-Hujwiri was the one. So coming to Sufism, if you look at the contribution of Sufism, first thing is they are the ones who started this entire concept of Urdu language. So which is a mixture of Hindustani and Persian, some aspects of Turkish, all these things they got included, and it did lead to the creation of something called Urdu language, which is special to subcontinent, Urdu, firstly. So next thing is some Sufi saints, some not all, they did promote religious tolerance. Some Sufi saints, they are very notorious, so for their intolerance and all these things, but some they did genuinely promote tolerance. This is second thing. So third thing, so they have popularized this concept of dargah. So dargah construction, it has become a popular activity among Muslims. This is the thing. And some aspects of Buddhism and Hinduism like zikr, meditation, sama, music, all these things they were adapted. So some Sufi saints, they are famous for developing Hindustani music. Right. For example, Amir Khusro, he was a disciple of Sufi saints, Nizamuddin Aliya, Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki and all that. So he was a disciple of them. So he did popularize much of this Hindustani music thing, Amir Khusro. So music, tolerance, dargah construction, Urdu language, all these are because of Sufism in medieval times, right? So coming to Bhakti movement, contribution of Bhakti movement, if you have an overlook, first thing, Bhakti movement, obvious thing is democratization, caste system. It could challenge the caste system, it could challenge the sacrifices thing and all that. And then they have developed the regional languages a lot, Marathi, Bengali, Oriya, Assamese, Manipuri, Telugu, Tamil, all these regional languages, Gujarati, they got impetus because of Bhakti movement. Bhakti movement and the growth of regional languages can't be seen separately. Second. And third important thing is women, emancipation of women and entry of women into public space, political space. It was enabled because of Bhakti movement, right? Especially we can see it in Maharashtra. So in Maharashtra, even in Tamil Nadu, so the active participation of women, it was enabled by Bhakti movement. So this is about Bhakti movement and the Sufi movement and its contribution to Indian society, right? Next topic of discussion, Vijayanagara. Right, in UPSC, whenever they feel that, so the representation of South is less, they would simply dump 2 bits on Cholas, 2 bits on Vijayanagara. So they feel that now I are safe, so nobody would say that this paper is heavily biased towards North India. So that is the reason why Cholas and Vijayanagara, they are important. So Vijayanagara, 4 dynasties, so Sangama, Saluva, Tuluva and then Aravidu. So 4 dynasties. First one, Sangama, started in 1336 by, so the foundation was laid by Harihara Raya, Bukkaraya, 2 brothers with the support of Vidyaranya Swami. So these 3 people, they were instrumental in formation, 1 guru and 2 brothers. So Vidyaranya Swami, Harihara and Bukkaraya. 3 people, 1336. Next, Sangama dynasty, it ruled for a very long period. In fact, the longest we can say, and for a very long. So Harihara Raya ruled, next Bukkaraya, next Harihara 2, next it was Devaraya 1, Devaraya 2. These 5, they were the important rulers of Sangama. In Sangama dynasty period, the important events, if you look the political events of this time period, firstly, they could occupy the entire Hoysala territory during the Harihara time, first Harihara. Next, during the Bukkaraya time, they have occupied entire South India. So this thing, we know it from the book Madura Vijayam, written by Ganga Devi. Madura Vijayam, it is a Sanskrit book by Ganga Devi. So she has written about the victory of her husband, Veera Kampana Raya, one of the brothers. So Veera Kampana Raya's victory over the Madurai Sultan. So Madurai, it was ruled by a sultan. So he was harassing people. So Veera Kampana went, defeated him and liberated the entire Dravida region. Right. So that is how during the first 40 years they could occupy South India. So second, during the times of Harihara 2 and Harihara 2 especially and Devaraya 1 also, during this time period we see intense conflicts with Bahmanis. So intense conflicts with Bahmanis, with the Velamas of Rachakonda and then the Reddy Rajas of Kondavidu. So Kondavidu, Rachakonda and then Bahamanis, with 3 entities, intense conflicts. This is the second thing we need to observe here. So during this time period itself, Firoz Shah Bahman marriage happened with the daughter of Harihara II. So Harihara II married off his daughter to Firoz Shah Bahman, one of the Bahman sultans, most powerful, right? So next, Devaraya II was the most powerful. So Devaraya II or Praudadevaraya is referred to as. So he was the most powerful one. During his time period, we see the visit of Abdul Razak. The visit of Abdul Razak. So he says that these people, Vijayanagara Devaraya II is the most powerful and all these things, they are said by this Abdul Razak. Next, Sangama dynasty, it was succeeded by Salva. Salva dynasty, it is for a very brief period from somewhere around 1491 to 1505. That's it. So Salva Narasimha, Immadi Narasimharaya, so Timmaraya, these were the rulers of this time period, Salva dynasty time period. Right. So after that, Tuluva dynasty. So Tuluva dynasty, so the most important Krishnadevaraya. Right. So Krishnadevaraya from the time period of 1509 to 1529. So for 20 years he ruled. His titles Andhra Bhoja, Yavana Rajya Sthapanacharya, Mururaya Ganda. So all these are his titles. So his victories over Bahmanis, he had victories over Bahmanis as well as repeated victories on Bahmanis and Gajapatis. So he went up to Katakam and he is known for his books Amukta Malyada, Jambavati Parinayam, and even there is another one, Usha Parinayam something, Usha Parinayam, Jambavati Parinayam and Amukta Malyada, 3 books. So Amukta Malyada in Telugu, Jambavati Parinaya, Usha Parinaya in Sanskrit. So these are the books. So after this person Krishnadevaraya, it is Sadasivaraya, Achyutadevaraya and then Sadasivaraya. So Achyutaraya, Sadasivaraya. During the times of Sadasivaraya, the famous Tallikota battle happened, the battle of Tallikota, which led to the decline of Battle of Tallikota, which led to the decline of these people. So Vijayanagara kingdom. So from 1565, after this Battle of Tallikota, the kingdom it stayed up to 1690, almost 1689 it did exist. But after 1689 it was completely closed. The Aravidu dynasty which ruled after this, they ruled from Chandragiri, Penugonda for some years, next to Chandragiri for some years, but eventually by 1689 their existence it was totally gone. So this is the thing. So the important thing we need to know about Vijayanagara empire is the foreign travelers during whose time they have come. So from which country they are from, so during whose rule they have come. The first one, Niccolo di Conti. So Niccolo di Conti, he was a merchant from Italy. He visited Vijayanagara in 1420 during the times of Devaraya I. Devaraya I, Niccolo Conti, Italian traveler. Next, Abdul Razak, Devaraya 2 times, he is from Persia, he is a Persian ambassador. So he has given the description of Vijayanagara city, that it is almost 7 times the size of Herat, it is almost the size of Rome. All such glorification is done by this Abdul Razak. So from Persia during Devaraya 2 time. Next, Domingo Pace. So he was a Portuguese soldier. He visited Vijayanagara during the times of Krishnadevaraya, Portuguese, Krishnadevaraya times. Next, Nuniz, N-U-N-I-Z. Nuniz, he visited Vijayanagara during the times of Achyutadevaraya. He is also a Portuguese. He is a Portuguese horse trader. So Nuniz. Next, Barbosa. So Barbosa, he visited during the times of Veera Narasimharaya, elder brother of Krishnadeva, during the time of 1507. So Barbosa during the times of Veera Narasimharaya. So Barbosa, Nunes, Domingo Pace, these people they are Portuguese. Abdul Razak he is a Persian. So Nunes, Niccolo di Conti is an Italian. So these people they were there. So another one who wrote about Vijayanagara was Ibn Battuta. So Ibn Battuta or Ibn Battuta. So this person he was staying in Delhi as Qazi. So he was a Morocco traveler. He was an Arab from Morocco. So he came to Delhi, he was staying in Delhi as Qazi. So he wrote a book called Rihala. In that book he has written about, in various other works also, he has written about Vijayanagara Empire. Right. So you can call it as a secondary source, secondary reference. The other secondary reference about Vijayanagara is by a Russian traveler called Nikitin. Nikitan. It is a secondary reference. This Nikitin, this Russian traveler, he has come to India, especially he has visited the Bahmani territories. But in that process he has even written about Vijayanagara. Right. So these are the foreign travelers, their country of origin and during whose rule they have come. This is very important for prelims perspective. Right. So next, Vijayanagara, they were in conflict with Bahmanis, especially for three areas. The first area, Raichur Doab, yesterday we have seen it. So Raichur Doab, next, so the Krishna Godavari region, Krishna Godavari Delta region, next, Konkan coast. Three areas for which Vijayanagara, it was constantly in conflict with the northern ones. It can be Bahmanis, it can be the Gajapatis. Three areas of conflict. Okay. Next. So coming to the administration of Vijayanagara. So coming to administration. So Vijayanagara administration, it was somewhat this thing too loose and all that. So total Vijayanagara kingdom, it was divided into 6 provinces. It was referred to as Pranta or Rajya. So each Pranta, it was under a Nayaka. So Pranta or this Rajya, so these were divided into Nadus and these were divided into Melagrama and into Gramas, villages. Melagrama and Grama. So each Pranta Rajya under Nayaka. So Nadus, they were generally ruled by Prabhus. So Prabhu or Nayaka, different terms they are used. So in some areas we see this term Prabhu. For example, you might have seen this thing. So Nada Prabhu Kempegowda. So the one who has built the city of Bangalore during the times of Vijayanagara, right? So he was the head of that Nadu, right? Next Melagrama, next comes Grama. So this was how this thing. So Vijayanagara Empire was administered. Right. Apart from this, they had something called the autonomous kingdoms. Autonomous kingdoms of Tanjore, Madurai, and then Mysore. And to some extent, some they even had Jinji. And some they even had Keladi. Keladi, it is in Karnataka. So these, they are some kind of autonomous kingdoms. So there also Nayakas used to rule. So Tanjore Nayakas, Madurai. So they existed even after the collapse of Vijayanagara Empire for a very long duration. Tanjore, Madurai, Mysore, Jinji, Keladi. Right. So autonomous kingdoms and then the direct administration aspect, here we can see it. Next, the other two things, Amarnayaka system, Amaranayaka system and then Polygar system, two important systems, Amarnayaka system and Polygar system under Vijayanagara. So Amaranayaka, it is a kind of military feudal setup, military feudal system where a military general would be given in charge of a group of villages called Amaram. So from that area he has to collect taxes, maintain troops, support the king in times of necessity. So that's Amaranayaka system. This system, it was taken by Vijayanagara directly from Kakatiyas. Kakatiyas, they had a similar system called Nayankara system. So there were almost like 72 Nayankaras with Kakatiyas. So the same system they have adapted and it was called as Amaranayaka system. The group of villages was Amaram. Nayaka was the military chief. Right. So polygars. So polygars are Palegar. So these people, they were the village administrators. So one village or group of villages, they are assigned to a Palegar. So the responsibility of the Palegar is to maintain law and order in that area, collect taxes, and in times of necessity support the king with men, with fighting force. So these are Palegars. These Palegars, they had extreme control over the villages. So this is why in Vijayanagara administration, political administration part, it is said that the villages, they have lost their autonomy. They have lost their village councils and all these things because of Paligar system. Veerapande Kattabommana, Viyalavada Narasimha Reddy, all these people, they are descendants of this Paligar system. Right? So these two, they are important. So coming to other offices in Vijayanagara, there was someone called Mahapradhani or Mahanayakacharya. Mahanayakacharya. So he was the coordinator between all the prantas, autonomous kingdoms with the central administration. So with the central administration, so he had to coordinate all these entities. Right, he was the most important. There were others like Dandanayakas, Senanis, Amarnayakas, they were all very much in existence. The other officials who used to assist the king were Rayasam. There were some called Rayasam. Rayasam, they were record keepers. They were like Kayasthas of North India. So yesterday we have seen Kayasthas, right? Record keepers. So Rayasam employees, they are similar to Kayasthas. Next, Adaipam, Adaippam. Adaipam or Adaipam, he was personal attendant to king. Next, Dalavai. Dalavai was the commander of king's personal troops, or you can say he was like chief bodyguard also at sometimes. Dalavai. Dalavai. So Rayasam, Adaipam, Dalavai, Vazal. So all these people, they used to assist king in the administration. Pradhani, Mahanayakacharya, all these people. So they used to assist. So this was how. So the administration was run during Vijayanagara times. So during the Vijayanagara times, in this 15th century, 14th century, there was this tradition of naming the courts. The name of the court of Krishnadevaraya was Bhuvana Vijayam. Bhuvana Vijayam was the name of his court, and even before that also there was this tradition of naming the courts. So during the times of Devaraya II, so the court of Vijayanagara, it was called as Mutyala Sala, right? So even among the Reddy kings, there was this tradition of naming the courts. So there was this, in Kondavidu, the Reddy court was called as Trilokya Vijayam, right? So Trilokya Vijayam, Mutyala Sala, Bhuvana Vijaya. So these are all the names of the courts of the kings, the darbars of the king, right? There was this tradition in that era. Okay, this is the thing. So the other important thing why Vijayanagara era is very famous is because of the literary work that is done during this time period, right? If you look at Devaraya II, so Devaraya II, he has written two works. So one is Sobagina Sone. Sobagina Sone, it is a work in Kannada. Next work it is Mahanataka Sudhanidhi in Sanskrit. Mahanataka Sudhanidhi in Sanskrit. So during the times of Devaraya I, it is by Devaraya II. Devaraya I, in his times, Dharmanatha Purana, about the 15th Tirthankara, Dharmanatha Purana, it was written by a Jain poet by name Madhura. Madhura, a Jain poet, has written Dharmanatha Purana, right, about 15th Tirthankara, Dharmanatha. So this was done, Sabagina Sone, Mahanataka Sudhanidhi, all these things. And during the Salva times, we know Annamacharya was patronized by Salva Narasimhadeva, Annamacharya. So during Salva times, Annamacharya is the most popular. Next, during the Krishnadeva times, it is the Ashtadiggajas. Ashtadiggajas, Purandharadasa, Kanakadasa, all these people, they belong to Krishnadevaraya time period. Especially Kanakadasa and Ashtadiggajas. So I forgot another name. Devaraya II time period, the another famous poet was Srinatha. So I forgot his name, Srinatha. So he is known for Kasi Kandam, Bhima Kandam, Srungara Naishadam, all these works. So Krishnadeva time, Ashtadiggajas and Haridasa tradition. So especially Kanakadasa, Purandaradasa, these people. Right. So this is why it is famous. Vijayanagara, this is famous. Coming to other aspects, Vijayanagara economy, very prosperous. So especially trade in precious stones, other things, it was very much known. So Abdul Razak, he says that Vijayanagara, it had almost like 300 ports. He says it is an exaggeration, but he says that it had almost 300 ports. So agriculture, especially Vijayanagara kings, they have taken care of irrigation facilities, right. So on Tungabhadra river, you can see the anicuts developed by Vijayanagara kings. So Tungabhadra, it is that river, it flows through Vijayanagara city, you can say. And even in Tanjore and other areas also, irrigation facilities, they were developed. So definitely the economy, the agriculture part was prosperous. So trading, it was done with China, Malaya, Burma, all these places, West Asia and all these places. So with Portuguese, they were a very strong alliance partners with Vijayanagara, especially from the times of Krishnadevaraya. So Albuquerque, the second governor of Portuguese, and Vijayanagara, they had a strong relation. Especially Portuguese, they had promised to give horses, so best quality horses to Vijayanagara, right. So this is about Vijayanagara economy. Coming to the society part. So society part, all the caste groups, everything what we see today in Andhra society, Kannada society, so they got created, stabilized during the times of Vijayanagara. That is the biggest social change. So from then on, you don't see any change in the social setup of especially Andhra region and Kannada region, right. So in Tamil society, it got stabilized by the time of Cholas itself. From Cholas, there was no change, right. It's regarding caste groups and all the names of the caste, the rules of the caste, the profession of the caste, everything got stabilized by Chola times. But in Telugu lands and Kannada lands, it is from the Vijayanagara era. This is one important thing in society, right. Next, coming to women condition, it definitely deteriorated. Women condition, it definitely deteriorated because of aspects like polygamy, Devadasi system, increased level of prostitution, sati practice among the royal families, child marriages, kanya shulka, dowry, everything. So all these things, they got started, or you can say they were at their peak during the Vijayanagara times, right. This is another thing. And next important thing is, so Vijayanagara society, it was a cosmopolitan society because Muslims and Christians, they were present in substantial number. Within Vijayanagara city, there was a Turakapeta. There was an Islamic colony called Turakapeta in Vijayanagara city, where a mosque was constructed and even it is said that cow slaughter was also allowed, right. So it was definitely a cosmopolitan entity, because Nunes, Barbosa, all these people, they write about this corporate cosmopolitan nature of Vijayanagara city. It was definitely multilingual, multi-religious, because Portuguese, they were frequenting that area, right. So all these things. Jains, we have seen this Madhura who read Dharmanatha Purana. So Jains were present. So all these people, they were present. So Sangama dynasty, they were Shaivites. Saluva, Tuluva, Aravidu, they were Vaishnavites. Sangama, they were strongly Shaivite, but all the other three, they were Vaishnavites. Especially Tuluva dynasty, Krishnadevaraya, he was a Sri Vaishnavite. So that is why he has developed Ahobilam, Tirupati. So all these Vishnu mandirs, he has developed them a lot, right. So Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, he belonged to it. So this is about the Vijayanagara kingdom. Next, coming to the Bahmanis. So Bahmanis, so the dynasty, it declared independence, or you can say it started its own entity in Gulbarga, in Deccan region, proper Deccan, by Alauddin Hasan Bahman Gangu. Alauddin Hasan Bahman Shah alias Gangu, right, Hasan Gangu. So he was the one who started it in 1347, and from then on Muhammad Shah and all these people, they did rule, the most important being Firoz Shah Bahman in the end of 14th century and the beginning of till 1420 he was there. 1397 to 1420 it was Firoz Shah Bahman, the most important one. He scored victories on Vijayanagara, he scored victories on all the North Indian entities also. He scored victories against the Malwas, against the Gonds, against the Gajapatis, everyone. So he did score victories on North Indian entities as well as South Indian entities, right. So this is one, he was a polyglot, all these things, but finally in 1420 he got defeated very badly, so he had to abdicate the throne. He had to leave the throne, give it to his brother and all that. So next again the high moment of Bahmani kingdom, it came during the times of Mahmud Gawan. So Gawan in the time period of 1460 to 80, in that time period, so he did rise the stature of Bahmani kingdom. So he scored victories till Kanchi in south, he scored victories on Gajapatis, everyone. And most importantly, this Gawan, he has reorganized the administration of entire Bahmani kingdom. He divided Bahmani kingdom into tarafs. Each taraf, it was administered by a tarafdar. Tarafs, they were divided into sarkars. Sarkars, they were divided into paraganas. Sometimes paraganas, they are referred to as tehsils in Andhra, Karnataka areas, tehsils. So instead of paraganas, you can even write tehsils. So ippatiki vaadtam kada tehsildar anatam. So this is where it came from. So next, villages. So this is the thing. So this was how the administration was done. So same at the center level as usual. So wazir, wakil, right. So bakshi, qazi, sadar. So similar offices, what we see in Delhi Sultanate, similar offices at central level. So no much change at all, right, because they were of the same tradition and all that, they had this same thing. So wazir, wakil, bakshi, qazi, sadar, and as I said earlier, khase kel, special royal bodyguards were called khase kel, so they were important institution. So all these things, they were present in this thing. And we also see this term Peshwa used for prime minister during Bahman times also. Later on Peshwa, it has become a very popular and powerful this thing title during the Maratha times. But Peshwa term, the origin of the term as prime minister instead of Vakil, it was used by these people, right. This is the thing. So Khase Kel, next Bakshi, these people. Next Amirul Amra. Amirul Amra was the commander-in-chief of Bahmani forces. Amirul Amra. And there were Jagirdars, Kiledars. Kiledars means in charges of forts. All such entities, they were present in Bahmani kingdom. So regular land tax, khams, karas, they were all the same, like that of Delhi's Sultanate. So this is about Bahmanis, but the thing here we need to note is from 1487 to 1512, in this time period, Bahmani kingdom, it got divided into 5 entities. So Ahmadnagar Nizam Shahs, Golconda Qutub Shahs, so next Bijapur Adil Shahs, Bidar Barid Shahs and Birar Imad Shahs. So into 5 entities it got split after death of Gavan. Gavan died somewhere around 1482 and in 1487 itself the split got started during the times of Muhammad Shah III. So this split is important. So all these 5 entities were there, but 3 important were Nizam Shahs of Ahmadnagar in Maharashtra, Qutub Shahs of Golconda in Telangana, next Bijapur Adil Shahs of Karnataka, North Karnataka. These 3 are important. The Barid Shahs and Imad Shahs, they are very smaller entities, not that important. So 3. So these 3 they could ally. Finally in 1565 they could ruin the Vijayanagara city. So they could defeat the Vijayanagara kingdom. But later on these 3 Bahmani kingdoms, they were defeated and they got integrated into Mughal territory. So by 1687, 1688 their existence did end. So in 1687-1688 time period, Aurangzeb, he has annexed them completely. Ahmadnagar, it ended by 1610 itself, 1610-1620 itself. During the times of Jahangir itself, the existence of Ahmadnagar Nizam Shahs, it ended. Bijapur and Golconda, they ended in 1687 and 1688. Okay, this is about the Bahmanis, their politics and their administration. Coming to the Bahmani society, if you look at Bahmani society, we have in Muslims, we have this thing called Afakis and Dakkanis. Afakis, Dakkanis. Afakis, they were the foreign Muslims who came from the original Muslim homelands, Arabia, Persia, Turkey, these places. Next one, Dakkanis, they were the local Muslims who got converted recently. So there was clash between the Afakis and Dakkanis for higher positions. This was there. This characterized the Bahman politics. Right. Next. So coming to the Hindus, Hindus initially they were not integrated into the administration of Bahmanis, but later on the Maharashtra Brahmins, the Maharashtrian Brahmins, they were included in Bahmani administration in large number. Right. This we can clearly see. So Maratha Brahmins inclusion into administration. And even the Marathas, so the agrarian caste Marathas, they were also included into the forces of Bahmanis in large number. Right. So this integration of, or you can say co-option of the Marathas for administrative purposes and military purposes, it is one important aspect in Bahmani society. This is the thing, and usual caste system and all that, they were as usual present. So condition of women was also as usual. In Hindus it was different, among Muslims it was different. This is about Bahmani system and all that. The economy of Bahmanis, it is rather poor. So very poor because of the arid conditions that were prevalent in the Deccan region. So generally they were poor. Right. So this is the thing about Bahmanis. Now coming to Mughals. Right. So Babur, he was the descendant of Taimur. So on the father's side he was descendant of Taimur, On the mother's side, he was the descendant of Genghis Khan, right? So he was with such grand lineage and all that, but he had to lose his kingdom in Fargana Valley of Uzbekistan. So Samarkand in Fargana Valley of Uzbekistan, he had to lose it. So he came down to Kabul. In Kabul, he got the invitation from India that the conditions in India are very much ripe for his invasion. Ibrahim Lodi is an inefficient, arrogant person. You can come and attack India. He got the invitation from the governor of Punjab, Daulat Khan Lodi. Right. So receiving that invitation, Babur, he has entered into India, defeated Lodi in the Battle of Panipat. First Battle of Panipat, 1526. That's how the creation of Mughal Empire, it got started. So after this first Panipat battle, Babur, he had to fight other three battles. Battle of Khanwa with Rajputs, Rana Sangha. Next, Battle of Gogra or Battle of Gogra. It was with the Afghans of Bengal, right? Muhammad Shah and others, Afghans of Bengal. Next, Afghans who were settled in Bengal. Next one was the Battle of Chanderi. The Battle of Chanderi with Medini Roy, the ruler of Gwalior. So these three battles had to be fought by Babur in his very short duration of time, 1526 to 1530. Each year he was doing a battle, right? So Panipat, Kanwa, Gogra and Chanderi, 4 battles. In 4 he was successful and he could form this empire. So from 1530 onwards we see, so he gave his empire to Humayun, but he divided the empire among his brothers and he said ki Humayun would be the preeminent thing and all that, but it didn't work out. So Humayun had to face rebellions from especially 2 entities, Bahadur Shah in Gujarat and Sher Khan in Sher Shah Suri tarvata ayinadu, mundu Sher Khan ayinadu, mundu atanu Sher Khan, right? So Sher Khan in Bihar. So these 2 entities, they were rebelling against Humayun. So because of this repeated clashes with his brothers and all that, finally due to Battle of Chausa and Battle of Kanauj, because of these 2 battles, Humayun had to leave India and Sur dynasty, it got created under Sher Shah. Okay, Sur dynasty, it was an Afghan dynasty. Okay, they were Afghans. So 1540 onwards till 1555. So India was not ruled by Mughals, it was ruled by Afghans. So 1540 to 45, it was the time period of Sher Shah Suri. So coming to Sher Shah. So Sher Shah, he is known for certain things, especially he is known for reintroduction of the Dag and Chehra systems. Next, he was known for his revenue system, revenue reforms, right? He surveyed the lands and he used to give a patta to the farmers. Patta was introduced by him, land patta document. And next, the revenue was prefixed with the farmer on an agreement called Kabuliyat. So patta is the document of ownership. Kabuliyat was the agreement between the government and the farmer with regarding how much the farmer has to pay for the government. And Takavi loans and other things, they were also revived by him. So generally he was taking care of the revenue administration in a far more efficient fashion, right? Because as a Jagirdar, he used to look after the revenue affairs of his father. So he had the experience of on-ground difficulties faced by farmers. So he used that experience to reform this. So Akbar, he used most of these reforms in his regime. Next important thing he did was construction of the Grand Trunk Road. Shahi Rasta అని చెప్పి అంటారు. So the Emperor's Road అని కూడా అంటారు. From Lahore to Sonargaon in Bengal. So Lahore to Sonargaon in Bangladesh it is presently. So that entire stretch of Indo-Gangetic plain, they were covered by this Shahi Rasta or Grand Trunk Road, right? So this is another thing. Police reforms were another thing, right? So all these, they made Sher Shah a very much popular ruler, right? So Sher Shah, unfortunately, he died in 1545 in a cannon accident where he was fighting for the Kalinjar fort in central India. So the cannon got burst and he died. Right. So this was the thing. He was succeeded by Islam Shah, Adil Shah, all such people, but of no much consequence. They are of not much importance. Right. So this is the thing. So in 15, so Humayun, he ran away from India. So in that process, he even went to Persia. So he even took to Shia tradition. He married the daughter of Persian emperor. He came back to India in 1555 and he did win back Delhi. He did win back the territory from the Sur dynasty people. But he couldn't enjoy it. He died in an accident. Right, while he was coming down the steps and all that, he died. So immediately after Humayun's death, again the Afghans came and captured the imperial zone of Delhi and Agra. Right. So when this capture happened, then Akbar came to picture with the support of Bairam Khan. Okay, that's the entry of Akbar, a 14-year-old boy with the support of Bairam Khan. So then Battle of Panipat II happened. Second Battle of Panipat, 1556. 1556, Second Battle of Panipat, in which Akbar won the battle against Hemu. So Hemu, he declared independence from the Sur dynasty. He took the title of Vikramaditya and started ruling. So Hemu was defeated, he was killed, and re-establishment of Mughal authority happened in India after a gap of 16 years almost. Right. So this is the thing. Now coming to Akbar. Akbar, famous for Rajput policy. Rajput policy of tolerance, integration, giving autonomy to them, all these things. Next, Mansabdari system. Next, revenue reforms. Next, Dini Ilahi. And definitely for his imperialism. Mansabdari system as well as other administrative aspects of Mughal territory. Rajput policy is simple. So he gave respect, he gave higher positions, he gave autonomy to the Rajputs. So they started serving for the Mughal empire, Mughal throne loyally because they were assured of dignity, respect and all these things to some extent, right. So this is the thing, Rajput policy. Second, so Mansabdari system, it was not an original system started by Akbar as such. It was originally the idea of Mongols, Chengiz Khan, Kublai Khan, these people. They used to organize their armies in the Mansabdari system. Next, even among Bahmanis, you will find Mansabdari system. So that system, it was improvised by Akbar with Jat and Savar rank systems. Jat and Savar ranks. Jat, it is the personal ranks. Savar is the number of cavalrymen to be maintained. So Jat, personal rank. Savar, number of cavalrymen to be maintained. Simple, right. This is the thing, how he managed it. And in Mansabdars, there were three categories: Amirs, Amirul Kabir, Amirul Umra. Amir, Amirul Kabir, Amirul Umra, three categories of this thing, Mansabdars. So Amir's lowest category, Amirul Kabir the second category, medium ones, Amirul Umra, they are the highest category. So the relatives of emperor, such people, Man Singh, Mirza Aziz Koka, so they used to get this status of Amirul Umra, highest status. So three categories of Mansabdars. So this is how Mansabdari system was organized. Each Mansabdar would get a huge Jagir. So from that Jagir, he has to collect the taxes, he has to maintain the armed forces. Same like Amarnayaka system, same like Iqtidari system, Mansabdari system also, it has land assignment component to it, right. Next, coming to administration part, Akbar, he has divided entire kingdom into 15 subas. Subas. Each suba, it was led by a subedar. Suba led by subedar and he was assisted by diwan. in financial matters. So Subhas, they were divided into Sarkars. Sarkars into Paraganas. Paraganas into villages. Right. So Subha, in Subha you will find officers like Subedar, Diwan, Bakshi, Qazi, all these officials at the level of Subha you will find them. Sarkar, it is led by Shikdar. Sarkar, it is led by Shikdar, SHIQ. Shikdars. Next, Paraganas, they are led by Amils, AMIL, Amil. Amils. Villages, regular Kuts, Mukaddams, Chowdhuris, any other village headman, they used to lead the villages. Right. This was how organization was done by Akbar. So the other thing as part of administration he did was revenue reforms in the revenue. Revenue administration reforms. So Zabt, Dahsala, and then classification. So Zabt system is nothing but assessing the revenue. So measuring the land. So he improvised Gaje Sikandari, the instrument that was introduced by Sikandar Lodi. He improvised it. He saw to it that no corruption happens using that instrument. So using that, Zabt was done. Right. So measuring the land, assessing, and all these things. Next, the tax was fixed as part of the 10-year average production of that particular field. So Dahsala means 10-year average of that particular field. So 10-year average would be maintained. Next, classification of the land is done into 4 categories: Polaj, Paroti, Chachar, and Banjar. Four categories. Polaj, it is the best. So every year it might yield for 2 times or even once at least. So every year it would be busy, that land. Right. Next, Paroti, sometimes it might get gap after 3-4 years. It might lose its fertility. So you have to give gap to it. Next, Chachar. So 2 years on, 2 years off. So Banjar, it would grow only once in 3-4 years. Infertile land. Right. That's how the classification of land is done. Next, average of 10 years would be done. Next, assessment would be done under ZEP. Next, the Patta and Kabuliyat would also be done. So the Sher-Shah systems, they continued as usual. So in this way, elaborate stabilization of revenue was done under Akbar. Right, with the help of Bhagavan Das, Todarmal, and others, he did arrive at such elaborate system of revenue administration, and it existed so for a very long period. So even Britishers continued most of these systems for a very long period. Right. So this is the land revenue policy. In administration, the other ones, if you see, you find offices like Diwan, Wazir. Right. So sometimes you will find this office Vakil was also there. When Bairam Khan was alive, Vakil means Prime Minister was there. Wazir or Diwan, any one could be there, 2 would be there sometimes. It is up to the discretion of the king. Next, Mir Bakshi, he was the defense minister, defense and home minister of the Mughal Empire. He used to look after the allotment of the mansabs, and he used to look after the implementation of the Dag and Chehra systems, branding of horses, descriptive roles. So what Zagir to be given to which mansabdar, all these things, it was the responsibility of Mir Bakshi. Mir Bakshi used to maintain even an intelligence system. So he was the head of the communication mechanism also. Right. Next, Mir Bakshi was next important office. Next, it was Mir Bahar. Mir Bahar was the officer responsible for logistics and transport. Mir Bahar. Next, Mir Saman. Mir Saman was responsible for Karkhanas. Mir Saman, Karkhanas, royal factories and storehouses, it is his responsibility. So during the times of Mughals, these factories, they were actually working, they were producing weapons and all such things. Right, even Akbar used to work in these karkhanas. So they were very important. Akbar actually has invented swivel guns. So guns which you can use while moving. Right, swivel guns were also invented in these karkhanas. Mir Saman, Mir Bakshi, so Kotwal, Qazi, Sadar Sadar, they were all there. Qazi and Sadar Sadar. Sadar Sadar is the religious head. Sadar Sadar, he was responsible for giving of Inam grants to Muslim Maulvis and Mullahs. So Muslim Maulvis and Mullahs, Sadar Sadar, he was responsible. Inam lands and all that. Qazi, he is the judicial officer. So this was the central administrative mechanism during Akbar's time. So next, coming to his religious policy, Akbar was famous for Ibadat Khana and Dini Ilahi. Ibadat Khana, he started it in 1570s, around 1576. He started it to have religious discussions. To have religious discussions with all the religions, Christians, Jains and all these people. Right. Next, Dini Ilahi, he came to a conclusion about all religions and he started his own religion called Dine Ilahi. So whose philosophy was Sulh-e-Kul. So peace to all. So even some Sufi aspects like Wahadat ul Wazud. So Wahadat ul Wazud, so the law of being, so law of existence, it is related to humanism. So Wahdatul Wazud, Sulh-e-Kul, all these they were part of Dini Ilahi, but it couldn't draw any traction. So it was not that popular. With Akbar, this religion has also gone away. Right. So but he was known for his tolerance and all these things. Next, imperialism. Akbar, he occupied all the territories. So he suppressed the rebellions and all that. So he had a continuous war with Mewar. That's the only territory which could remain some kind of independent under Rana Pratap. But Gujarat, Bihar area, Gondwana, right, Gondwana under Rani Durgavati, Ranatambor under Jashwanti Devi. So all such territories, they were occupied by Akbar. Right. So he was very notorious for his act of massacre in Chittorgarh. Right. So this was done by him. Next, he was the one who has interfered into Deccan for the first time. The first Mughal emperor to interfere in Deccan was Akbar. So he interfered in the affairs of Ahmednagar and he made Ahmednagar a protectorate state of Mughals. He kept it under the protection of Mughals. So Ahmednagar, it has lost its sovereignty due to Akbar. So he was a thorough imperialist. So all this is about Akbar. Next, Jahangir. Coming to Jahangir, so his time period, it was dominated by Nur Jahan, right? His wife Nur Jahan was the dominating one, and then his son Khurram, the future Shah Jahan. So he was another dominating one, right? Jahangir, most of the time, so the things he did was, he occupied, right, he could settle the dispute with Mewar. He occupied certain regions of Kangra. Apart from these two, we don't find any major annexations did by him, any major political achievements under his regime. But Jahangir, he had to face the rebellions of Mahabat Khan and then Shah Jahan, Khurram. Right. Jahangir, he was known for his paintings and other things. And Jahangir, he was also known for his execution of Guru Arjan Dev. Guru Arjan Dev, so Sikh Guru, so he was executed by Jahangir for a very small reason that he blessed a rebelling prince. So Khusro was on rebellion, so Arjan Dev just blessed him. So with anger, Jahangir, he has executed Guru Arjan Dev with this the Mughal-Sikh relations, they started to be strained. So they got strained because of this execution, right. So this is the thing. So on his occupation of this Kangra region, so Jahangir, he has destroyed the famous Jwalamukhi temple of Kangra. So this was one temple destroyed by him. The other temple destroyed by him was Varaha temple in Rajasthan. So Varaha temple of Rajasthan and Jwalamukhi temple of Kangra. So these two are the temples destroyed. So this is about the politics of his era. Finally, Shah Jahan, he could become the ruler in 1628. So 1605 to 1628 it was Jahangir. 1556 to 1605 Akbar, right. 1628 to 1658 it is the time period of Shah Jahan. So Shah Jahan time period, important political aspects of his time period was, so Golconda and Bijapur, they have accepted the sovereignty of Mughal emperor. This is important political development. So Golconda and Bijapur, they have accepted his sovereignty. They started minting coins in his name and all that. Second, during the Shah Jahan times, the Maratha issue has come up. It is a serious challenge. So the rise of Shivaji, it got started from his time. Even before that also in Deccan, there was this trouble of rise of Malik Ambar. So Malik Ambar was a divan, or you can say the prime minister of Ahmednagar. So he was a rebellion during the times of Jahangir. So he was the rebellion during the times of Shah Jahan also. After death of Malik Ambar, so Marathas, they got organized, they got unity under Shivaji and they started occupying certain regions. So Shah Jahan times, the Maratha issue, it came up. Third thing is, during the times of Shah Jahan, certain regions of Afghanistan, they were lost. In the time of Jahangir itself, they were lost because Shah Jahan refused to go to Afghanistan. During Shah Jahan time also, a substantial part of Afghanistan was lost to Persians. So this thing happened, loss of Afghanistan, parts of Afghanistan. Next, so the famines in Deccan. So the famous famine in Deccan, it is one important activity, one important event that happened, the famines of Deccan. Next, and his conflict with Portuguese and his attack on Hooghly. So the famous attack on Hooghly by Shah Jahan, because Portuguese, they have kidnapped some women of harem of Shah Jahan. So he attacked them. After that, we don't find any presence of Portuguese in Hooghly, in Bengal region, right. This is the thing, right. So Portuguese. So all these are important political events during Shah Jahan's time period. Next, so finally there was this war of succession among four brothers. Finally Aurangzeb was victorious, and Aurangzeb, he ruled from 1658 to 1707. Coming to Aurangzeb, so after battle of Dharamghat, after battle of Samughad and all that, he could declare himself to be the emperor of India, right. So Aurangzeb, you name the group, he had a dispute with that group, right. So north, south, east, west, everywhere he had disputes, right. So in south, he completely annexed even Shias, you can add the Shia Muslims, because in south, though the Golconda and Bijapur, they have accepted his sovereignty, but still he was not satisfied, he occupied them, saying that you are Shias, you are not Sunnis, right. So he had a trouble with Marathas. So continuous battles with Shivaji, and even after death of Shivaji, he had battles with son of Shivaji and all. So all these people, Tarabai, with all of them, he had regular conflicts. So for almost like 25 years, last 25 years of his regime, he stayed in Deccan because of the Maratha issue. Next, Sikh issue. Aurangzeb, he has in a very brutal fashion executed Guru Tej Bahadur Singh. So Guru Tej Bahadur, the 9th Guru of Sikhs, he was executed. Right. After this execution, Sikhs, they have organized themselves under Khalsa. Under the leadership of Guru Gobind Singh, the last Sikh Guru, the 10th Guru of Sikhs. So that's how the Sikh rebellion, it got started. It has become a serious challenge in Punjab region. Next, the Jats. So Jats, because of excessive tax demands from the Mughal officials, Jats, they started rising in the regions of Haryana, Western UP and Rajasthan. So Jats, they were up in arms against tax demands. Right. This was the thing. Next, Rajputs. Rajputs, they were up in arms because, see, Aurangzeb, he has defied the age, time tested aspect of not interfering into the internal affairs of Rajput kingdoms. So he interfered into the succession issue of Jodhpur, and he sold off Jodhpur to the guy who paid him highest bribe. So that enraged the Rajputs. So the Jodhpur Rajputs, they revolted against Aurangzeb, and this revolt, it was joined by all the other Rajput groups of Udaipur and other places. So that's how the Rajput trouble, it has become a serious challenge. Next, Satnamis of Uttar Pradesh, they were harassed for their religious beliefs, they were demanded higher tax, so they too revolted. So Ahoms, they protested against the imperialism of Mughals under Lachit Borphukan. Right, under Lachit Borphukan, an Ahom warrior, so they could defeat the Mughals in a serious battle, the battle of Saraighat, the famous battle of Saraighat. Ahoms. So Shias we have already seen. So annexation of Golconda and Bijapur, right? So all these disputes during his time, and during the time of Aurangzeb itself, we see the Jagirdari crisis coming up that started eating away the Mughal empire internally. So Jagirdari crisis, because there was a rise in the number of Mansabdars and troops to fight all these battles. So there was demand from the Mansabdars for best possible Jagirs. Okay, without Jagirs they can't maintain the armed forces. You need Jagirs, but all the Mansabdars, they wanted Jagirs in peaceful areas, not in Rajasthan, not in Maharashtra, not in these troubled areas. So armies were rising, Mansabdars were rising, but there was shortage of this thing. And add another group, Bundelas. I forgot. Bundelas under Raja Chhatrasal. Bundela Rajputs under Raja Chhatrasal. So they too fought against Aurangzeb. Right. So if you exclude all the troubled regions, there is no region in Mughal territory left. So obviously you need Jagirs. So that led to intense conflict among the Mansabdars for good Jagirs, and that was the reason for, another reason for the collapse of Mughal empire immediately after death of Aurangzeb. Right. So all these things, they characterize the rule of Aurangzeb. So next important thing is, he reintroduced all the intolerant policies. He reintroduced jizya, he reintroduced zakat, pilgrimage tax, right. He destroyed Somnath Mandir, which was reconstructed by Hindus. Alauddin Khilji destroyed, again Hindus reconstructed it, again Aurangzeb destroyed it, right. So he destroyed the Varanasi Mandir, so constructed the Gyanvapi Masjid there, where the dispute is now going on, right. Gyanvapi Masjid, so Mathura, so he was the one who destroyed it and constructed masjid there, right. So Mathura issue, Varanasi issue, Somnath, all these places, and several temples in Orcha. Orcha, it is the city of Bundelkhand, right. So Orcha, city of Bundelkhand, in all these places you will find heavy destruction of temples by a separate department during Aurangzeb times, right. So all these things, they were done on a this scale, higher scale. So intolerance was another important aspect, right. Jizya, zakat, because jizya and zakat, they were abolished by Akbar in 1560s itself. In 1562-63 itself, Akbar has abolished them. in his early regime itself, early years of his regime itself, he abolished, but this person he reintroduced them again. This is about Mughals. We have seen the Mughal administration also. Now if you look at the Mughal society, see same Mughal society, the Muslims, if you look at Muslims, so many segments got formed within Muslims, especially so Mughals, Pathans, right, Tajiks, Uzbeks, Persians, and lastly Sheikhzadas, Indian Muslims. So Muslims in India, they got separated on the basis of from which lands they have come. This is one thing. Second thing is, we see is Turani versus Irani conflicts. Turani versus Irani. See, Turanis are in general Sunnis from the Turkish lands. So Turkey, Central Asia region, Azerbaijan, all these areas, these people, they are called as Turani people, generally Sunnis. Iranis, they are people from Iran, Iraq region, generally Shia, not compulsorily Shia, generally Shia. Okay, Turanis versus Iranis. See, Turanis, they were good in fighting, so they were sword based people. Iranis, they were good in administration, pen based people. So there was this conflict between the sword and the pen, right. So this is one important clash in the Mughal Darbar. So Turani versus Irani, and these all sections within Muslims. This is the thing. Next, Hindu society as usual. So regular caste system, untouchability, they were all present as usual within the Hindu society. And one process you can call in the Mughal times that happened in the Hindu society, North Indian Hindu society, was Rajputization. So many caste groups, they started claiming to be Rajputs. They started claiming the Kshatriya status. So many tribal groups, many farming groups and all that, they started claiming themselves to be Rajputs, Kshatriya status, right. So this is one important thing. So in Hindu society, other aspects, women condition and all that, they were same. Akbar, he took certain measures to prevent sati system among Rajputs. So he appealed to Rajputs that to stop sati system, and even Akbar tried to stop female infanticide in the Hindu society. So he took measures against, not measures as such, appeals for stopping this female infanticide and sati system. These two we can observe. So any other social reform, we can't find anything. Even so, Aurangzeb, actually he has abolished sati system. So he was the first Mughal ruler to abolish it altogether. He has declared it illegal, but nobody would carry his orders. So entire country was in a rebellion mode. So his orders were scarcely followed, right. This was the thing. So he abolished the sati system, and this was done by him. So this is about Mughal society. Coming to Mughal economy, see, in early 17th century, or you can simply take by from the time at the time of death of Aurangzeb if you take. So India was the leading producer with almost like it had 25% of the global GDP. So 25% of the global GDP, 27-28% of the manufacturing GDP, it was with India at that time. India was definitely the economic powerhouse. So in early 18th century, this was there. So large amount of population, though they were living in villages, but they were all engaged in guild based distributed model of production cycle. See, 14% of Mughal India was urban, 86% was rural, but in this 86% there were many who were engaged in productive manufacturing activity, weaving, pottery, carpentry, shipbuilding, all these things they were going on at full scale in Mughal India, right. So this was the case. So Mughal economy was definitely prosperous. So agriculture, we have already seen the revenue model and all these things. Mohars, dinars, jitals, These were all the currency that was used. Coming to manufacturing, so specially weaving, and that too specially silk. So silk worm rearing technique, it was developed manifold in India in 17th century. If you look at 1600 to 1650, in these 50 years itself, silk production, it has increased by almost 5 to 10 times in India because of this growth in the silkworm rearing technique. So silk, especially the economic powerhouse was Bengal. So muslin, calicos, carpets, rumals, right? So all such different types of cloths, they were manufactured in India. So Dhaka, Murshidabad, Surat, they were all obviously so huge urban centers. So Dhaka, it had almost like population of 1 million in 17th century, 18th century itself, right? So this was the case. So Mughal India, it was famous for its manufacturing activity and exports, both through seas as well as overland trade to Central Asia, right? So this was the case. So trading, it was done by Bohra Muslims, Khoja Muslims and Marwadis. Marwadis, Khatris, Bohras and Khojas. These communities, they were involved in trade. And the other community was Banjaras, who were involved in grain trade. So grain distribution and trade, it was done by Banjaras. So these were the trading communities. Marwaris, Khatris, Banjaras, Bohras and Khoja Muslims. Bohras and Khojas, they were Muslims, right? So this is about Mughal economy. So especially in textiles, agriculture and all these things, and these karkhanas were also good manufacturing centers and all these things, right? Next, Marathas. Coming to Marathas, see, the Maratha Renaissance as such, it happened from the times of Gnaneshwar. So Gnaneshwar, Eknath, Namdev, next Tukaram, Ramdas, Samartha Ramdas, all these people, they have contributed to something called the Maratha Renaissance, right? So Maratha Renaissance, it took political shape with Shivaji. Even before Shivaji, his father Shaji Bhonsle, he did try to establish an independent kingdom. So he was with Shah Jahan for some years, he was against Shah Jahan, right? He tried different alliances to form an independent Maratha kingdom, but it didn't work out. Finally, he went to Bijapur, he settled there as a Mansabdar, so ruling over the Bengaluru region. So he became the Jagirdar of Bangalore. So Shivaji has spent some part of his childhood in Bangalore, right? So this did happen. So Shivaji, so son of Shaji Bhonsle, so mother Jijabai, so near Pune in a fort called Shivaner, so he took birth. So Shivba, right? So he was named after Shivba, a local goddess, so near Pune. So Shivaji, so all his initial conflicts, they were directed against Bijapur. Bijapur, it started with the famous, or I can say the fort of Torana. So Torana was his first fort. Later on he occupied several forts. So Bijapur was his primary target, because by that time Ahmednagar was nowhere present. Ahmednagar, it got merged into Mughal territories and its territory was taken by Bijapur also. So Ahmednagar was not there. So Bijapur was his first target. Next, Shivaji, he had to do many battles with Maratha chiefs. His own clanmen, his own men, his own group of people, they didn't accept Shivaji as the leader. So he had to face stiff resistance from the Maratha chiefs like Mohites, Mores of Javali, so Nimbalkars, all these people, the Savantwadi Bhonsles. So several such Maratha chiefs is the second zone of conflict for Shivaji. Third, the last zone of conflict was Mughals. Last zone of conflict was Mughals because after defeating Bijapur and all that, So he concentrated upon Mughal territories, especially Surat. So Surat was like a regular point of cash for Shivaji. He looted Surat twice. Right, his conflict was with this entity. So Mughals. So 3 zones of conflict he had to face. So after repeated wars, he had wars with Ranadullah Khan, Afzal Khan, Shaista Khan. So all these generals, they were defeated by Shivaji. But finally, he had to come to an arrangement. He had to come to an agreement with Raja Jai Singh under Treaty of Purandar. So the only time when Shivaji submitted for the authority, or you can say military might of Raja Jai Singh. Right. So Treaty of Purandar. So Shivaji submitted his forts, many forts, important forts, and he accepted to be a Mansabdar in Mughal Darbar. Right. But there he was humiliated, he was arrested, all these things happened. He escaped, he declared independence. Later on he continued his raids into Mughal territories, Bijapur territories and all that. Right. So finally, after several of these things, in 1674, the official coronation of Shivaji happened. And it was the foundation of the Maratha Swarajya or Hindu Swarajya. The idea of Hindu Swaraj or Swarajya, it was declared by Shivaji in 1674 with his official coronation as a king, independent king. Right. So after 1674, this coronation thing and all that, he ventured into south. He had an alliance with Golconda. He came to Hyderabad. From Hyderabad through Kurnool, Kadapa, he visited Sri Salem and all that. There is this Shivaji Memorial Center in Sri Salem, Dhyana Mandir అని చెప్పి ఉంటుంది. So from there he went to Jinji. He occupied areas like Jinji, Vellore, and he even went up to Tanjore. All these areas, they were made part of the Maratha Swaraj. Right. So this is called the aspect of Dakshina Digvijaya Yatra of Shivaji after his Rajyabhishek. Right. This was done by him, southern campaign. Finally, Shivaji, he died in 1618. 1680, he died. So this is Shivaji, the one who founded this entire idea of Hindu Swaraj. So against Mughals and Bijapur. So coming to Shivaji, his legacy starts in his administration aspect. In administration, he stood out especially with Ashtapradhan system. Ashtapradhan system, there were 8 ministers. So Peshwa, Purohit, Sare-Naubat, that is Commander-in-Chief or Senadipati, Sare-Naubat, Senapati. So Nyayadish, Amatya, Sachiv, Amatya, Sachiv, there are other 2, I forgot. So Peshwa, Purohit, Senapati, Nyayadish, Amatya for finance affairs, Vakyanavis for intelligence and communication mechanisms, Sachiv is for correspondence and other things, Amatya for finance matters, and there was another one, Vakyanavis. Can anyone say? మీరు చెప్పండి, నోట్స్లో ఉంటుందిగా. సుమంత్ ఫర్ ఫారిన్ అఫైర్స్. మనం వాళ్ళని వీళ్ళని ఎందుకు అడుగుతున్నాం మీ దగ్గర? రైట్. సో సుమంత్. All these are the 8 ministers who would administer different aspects of the Maratha Swaraj. Except Pandit Rao and Nyayadish, all the others, they are expected to take military roles. This is important. All the others, all the 6, they had to take up military roles in times of necessity, and all they were paid in cash. No Jagirdars, nothing. No system of Jagirs. Later on it came in the Maratha polity, but in the times of Shivaji it was very clear that only salaries. Right. So this was the Ashtapradhan system. So entire kingdom of Shivaji, it was divided into prants. So Prants and then Subhas. So Prants, Subhas and then into villages. But generally the administrative mechanism, it was not fixed. So from region to region it used to change. Shivaji didn't get much time to organize the entire provincial administration of Maratha. So because of this, in different sources you will find different kinds of administration for Maratha territories. So it is not fixed, right? But the Ashtapradhan system at the central level, it was the fixated mechanism of Maratha political administration. So this is the thing. After Shivaji, the Maratha struggle, it was taken over by Shambhaji, his son Shambhaji, and then his younger son Rajaram, and then wife of Rajaram, Tarabai. So Tarabai for 7 years, 1700 to 1707, she fought against Aurangzeb. Tarabai. So after them, it was son of Shambhaji, Sahu Maharaj. Sahu, Chhatrapati Sahu. So he fought against the Mughals, right? So this was the order of. So after Sahu, the Chhatrapati family, its importance has declined, and Peshwas have become the preeminent power in the Maratha administration. So this is about, we can say, Marathas. So in modern India, again we will see Marathas, their wars with English and all these things we will see in modern India, right? This is about medieval India.